All right, we're here in Studio 2 at Sunset Sound. It's November 26th, the day after Thanksgiving. We're here with the hardest-hitting man in show business, the author of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll, and also a new publication of Modern Drummer Legends, which Kenny's been on the cover 4 times now?
4 times, yeah.
Incredible. And this is, we were just leafing through this, but the pictures, the stories, you have your notes on here?
Well, I'm well known for writing extremely detailed charts, so I decided to put some of these are original charts. So that's Straight No Chaser from a Buddy Rich big band recording I did.
Wow.
And there's a couple of charts. I think there's a Michelle Branch chart that I recorded right here on her first big record.
Paper and Fire, John Mellencamp.
Yeah. Those are all my handwritten. Yeah.
Wow, very cool. And these are available everywhere you buy books?
That's Amazon, definitely. And that book will be Modern Drummer Publications. The real takeaway from that is just which is what's made me successful and stay successful for 40 years in one of the most difficult businesses in the world, the music business, is it's just self-discipline, hard work, and perseverance, all fueled from that being my purpose in life. This is the greatest joy, the greatest motivator for me as a human being while I'm still breathing, is I just love music and I love the drums. And when you pick the thing that is really you, your purpose, your deepest desire, your truth, why you even want to breathe air, when you find that, you will be unstoppable, undeniable, and super authentic. Because you're not acting.
100%. And that's what I admire about you so much, because there's no shortcuts in this game. People think, with the social media now and let's get famous overnight on TikTok, I mean, that's not real. And it's not a career that I want to have that doesn't have longevity. Let me ask you about that then. So you start drumming as a kid. Do you remember the moment when you said, I'm good at this, I wanted to do this for a living? Do you remember when you thought, like, I play guitar. I remember when I was like, holy shit, I'm getting good at this.
I never thought I've ever been good enough. I mean, I'm obviously good enough to do it, and it's exciting, but I got this phrase, I'll never be as great as I want to be, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life trying to be as great as I can be. And obviously I've been rewarded by my hard work, but I'm kind of like, I look at it like I'm Tom Brady. Being Tom Brady, I mean, that guy, it's not, for him, football is not a sport, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
For me, music and drumming is a lifestyle. It's not just playing the drums, it's the way I'm wired. So you could probably take me out of this and put me into something else that I was just as equally as passionate about, and I'd be doing the same thing. Yep. It's a lifestyle. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually what I am 365 days a year. So with Brady, when he is done with the Super Bowl, he can't help it, but he's already thinking, how to be physically right, mentally right. He loves it. So for him, winning 1 Super Bowl is amazing. Winning 2 in a row, impossible. And he did it. Being in 10 Super Bowls and winning 7, not even close, anybody. Nobody on the planet Earth has done that. And when people make fun of him, I go, what? You hate Einstein because he came up with too many inventions or formulas?
I know.
What are you kidding me? This is our goal. This is our North Star. So I relate to him because I feel the same way as I sense he feels. This is a lifestyle. So when did I think I was good enough? Well, when I was on Saturday Night Live, I thought I was insecure and nervous, but I felt like, oh my God, I think I'm making it. When Jack and Diane went to #1, I was at the Sunset Marquee.
Yeah.
And went to #1. My reaction was ecstasy for about 2 seconds, and then I freaked out because I went, I'm not #1. They're going to expect me to do this again. But John hasn't written the song. I don't know what to do on a song that he hasn't written. I got to do it again. I'm not #1. I don't play #1 hits every day. And so there was a reality check where I was ecstatic because back then, when you were #1, you were friggin' #1. Are you allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah.
You were fucking #1 because it's not like some people say, yeah, I've been on 30 #1 hit singles. What charts are you talking about? Back then, there was only 2 charts.
Yep.
You were either album-oriented charts or singles charts. And if you were number 1 back then, you were on every radio station, every TV show. You were you couldn't get away from Jack and Diane. And that song is still
can't.
I know, yeah, it's still being played today. So anyway, yeah, those moments, I felt like I'm making it.
Yeah.
I never thought I've made it. I know. Listen, I just came back from a 2-week tour with Fogerty, and everybody, they hear me practicing these technique exercises. I have a system called, it's a functional practice routine. 4 in the morning, I'll get a text from the keyboard player that says, man, you're exceptionally in good time tonight. His right below me, I'm doing double, because that's what Tom Brady does. It's like you have to be, before you even get on stage, I have to have so much in place with sleep, diet, practicing, warming up 3 different times a day, specific exercises for that show. And I have a drum solo, so I have to amp up my technique. And then there's another component. So you have to be prepared mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually to just get on the field. But then it's the second component is adapt or die.
Yep.
Now think about it. Tom Brady on the line. They got to play. He's trying to figure out what that defense is going to do. They're trying to fool him. They're trying to fuck him up. People who don't know what football is, that defense is purposely disguising. They're making him think they're doing this, and when that ball snapped, bam, they switch, they move, people go forward, they go backwards. They're trying to fuck up his play. So it's called adapt or die. And when I get on stage, there's other guys in the band, and things go wrong, or my earpiece, the wire snapped, and so suddenly I'm hearing only through one ear. Backup, it's adapt or die. And if you can live under those 2 things, preparing and then being willing to adapt or die in any given situation, you're going to have an incredible life because you've accepted reality.
Well, and also just how grueling it is to be a touring drummer. It's so hard. I can't even, if I go to San Francisco for a night, I'm like, I need all my supplies. And it's just, you've been doing this your whole life, you know, so it's like you're really good on vitamins and sleep and water. And
I drink my wine and my whiskey, but the thing is, I'm very, very aware all the time of where I'm at, and everything's about my career and performing. So if I start seeing that something's getting in the way, like I just did a Kings of Chaos gig on our day off, me and James Lomenzo, who's also in the Fogerty Band. And, after the show in Macon, Georgia, we drove 3 hours to South Carolina. We're rehearsing. I'm rehearsing. We rehearsed before we went on this little tour. But, I'm running through the stuff on our day off. So we rehearsed with 4 songs with Ann Wilson, 4 songs with Billy Gibbons, 4 songs with Dee Snider.
Wow.
Just a sound check, and that was it. That was the only, I write everything out. I know every tempo. I am so prepared. But my point is I only got 1 hour of sleep that night and then had to fly to Miami, then fly, 3-hour layover, then fly to Key West. I immediately went into our dressing room and just laid there for 5 hours knowing everything was for that show that night. And I didn't want anything to get in the way of me not performing at the level that John Fogerty demands.
Sure.
And he hears every note you play. Creedence sounds simple on paper, but any backbeat that's a little bit slightly laid back, he likes everything on the edge. He wants you to drive him in the band, and I have to study and listen to him, every note, every song, and the flow, and you got to watch all kinds of things. Talk about adapt or die. But my point is, I'm always preparing for that show, and it's always the Super Bowl to me.
You were here a few weeks ago. I ran into you. You were here on a session, but you were doing some interviews while you were recording here that day. Ozzy Osbourne, I think, was in 3. You were in this room, but it was the day that Charlie Watts had died.
Yeah.
And we had ran into each other. So let's do that interview we've been talking about for a year now. What did Charlie Watts, as a drummer, mean to you, and how did he inspire you?
Well, Charlie... when I was younger, I thought, I can play like that. It's the old famous, until you realize, and what the guy was the ultimate musician. He played the instrument, he did the right thing on that instrument in a band. The 4 concepts of drumming to me are pick the right beat for the song. Otherwise, don't even show up. Second, you got to keep time. First two notes you play define time. Time, the measurement between k or boo, ga. If you repeat it, you've got steady time. Third thing, make it feel good. And those three things happen in like milliseconds, okay? And then anything you add to that is creativity. It's a creative idea. So beat, time, and groove is like a cake, and then you put icing on it, which is the creativity. Charlie was that guy. Now think about this. Satisfaction's first song I ever heard the Stones do. That's it the whole way through. Why would he do that? He was a jazz drummer. Why? Because he knew it was the right thing. Once you establish that, and if you get away from it, you fuck it up. Yeah. Even when the hey, even his fills. There were no fills. That was his fill. Now, as a young kid, you're going like, man, I can play that. But then as an adult, I realized, genius, because he knew that was the foundation of the entire song. And I'll give you a story. I mean, if you listen to, any of the songs, it's Keith's guitar, then Charlie's sound and beat. As simple as it is, it's the right beat for the song. Now, I'm recording with the Stones at Ocean Way. I started by doing Charlie's solo record, and I was playing percussion, weird percussion, and he loved it, kept asking me back. So one day I walk in, and it's all of the Stones now, because, see, that bridges the Babylon record. Monday, let's just say, figuratively, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it was Keith's room. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, it was Mick's room.
Yeah.
They were making two different records. Finally, Don said, dude, you're not the Stones until you play together. Oh, but they're brilliant. What they do is they experiment. All they're trying to do is bring ideas into the Stones. Doing that interview, I had to do some research for Sirius Radio. I came back and did my own show, and I learned stuff about the Stones I didn't know. Keith and Mick would go and take vacations together, not because they loved each other, because they were learning and absorbing the cultures. They went to a small little town outside of Sao Paulo, and that's where they came up with Honky Tonk Woman. It was originally a Latin song. And it didn't end up that way, because the Stones have a way of knowing, but let's take that idea, and that's where they came up with the cowbell, because it was a Latin thing. And then Keith coming up with this genius, cool part. It's done before the vocals even come in. It's done. It's then Mick comes on top of that. So, anyway, I'm recording a song, and I'm playing a gourd with just beads on it with a brush, because I do weird. I had a brush. I'm going. And Keith or Mick's playing acoustic guitar. Mick comes up to me. It's 4 a.m. and goes, "Hey, Kenny, I love what you're doing, but don't get in the way of Charlie's hi-hat." Okay, here's my point. The lead singer of one of the greatest rock and roll bands ever cares about his drummers playing and feel, because he knows that's the Stones. He knows that's the Rolling Stones. Don't get in the way of Charlie's hi-hat, because I know we're going to need that, and that's magical. And, of course, when the song came out, I was mixed out of it, but that's okay. But I just loved it. So Charlie Watts may not be the most obviously technical drummer, but his musicianship and his sound, it was extraordinary in one of the greatest, biggest rock and roll bands ever. If you can't see that, then you're missing out on the essence of being a great musician.
The Stones did 5 records here. They worked on Exile here. They did
Exile.
Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed. We worked, on and on and on. So much great work. That's why we're doing this show. It's 60 years as a recording studio. It was Disney for the first 3 years, but it's just, let's document and talk about sessions. And, you're such an amazing drummer, and you've done so much work here. And, we have this brotherhood from Indiana University. We're both alumni of, I think, is one of the greatest schools ever. And then also, the Jacobs School of Music, which you attended, but was called just The music school.
It was
pretty
called Indiana University School of Music, and then the Jacobs family obviously put down some money, and now it's their school. And I have a Kenny Aronoff Jacobs School's percussion scholarship.
Wow.
That's I set it in place that'll be there till the world explodes.
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
You put money down, or it's in my will, and the kids will be getting. It's been over 20-something years, and one of my ex-students thought of the idea of doing it. Started out, we both would put $500 in a year. Now a kid can get, might be as high as 10,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, and this helps percussionists. Yeah. Anyway, that School of Music, this school of music, and what makes a great school, is that it's not about entitlement. It's not about laziness. You don't get a trophy because you show up. My first lesson with my teacher, for some reason I didn't have a pencil eraser. He says, "Get the fuck out of here. You get an F. Don't ever show up anywhere without a pencil and eraser." He was right, and I became one of the most detailed chart writers in the world. But he was right. He says, "You got to write everything down. You need to notate. You can't possibly remember what everybody's telling you." And that was my first lesson. And this guy, he was ruthless. It wasn't Whiplash. He didn't throw anything at me.
What a great movie that is.
Yeah, I know. But I'll give you a quick example. I walked in freshman year, and I'm standing there scared to death of him, and he's sitting at his desk. If you're facing me, and standing there with my sticks in my bag, and he's writing. He goes, "That means give me your lesson book." He's opening it up. He's writing. Puts a post-it there. Goes, "F sharp harmonic minor, starting with the right hand, 2 octaves, 3, 4." And I'm still standing there. And he looks at me and goes, "Kenny, are you happy here at Indiana University School of Music?" I'm crapping in my pants. He says, "Don't you ever come into a lesson or an orchestra rehearsal or a rock and roll rehearsal and not be ready. You never know when the boss is going to say go. You're not sitting there picking your nose or flirting with some girl. You come in there and you be prepared." Those are some of the skills this guy taught me. And, oh my God, you're doing Kennedy Center honors and things like that. You can't fuck up. A drummer fucks up, you're out. Dude, the attention to detail and understanding, okay, then comes Sting, then comes Dave Grohl, then comes Lady Gaga, then comes Bruno Mars, then comes Chris Cornell. Each one of those people are different, like, personalities or corporation. I'm working with all these different corporations, and it ain't about me. It's about them. It's about the corporation. So Indiana University taught me these type of skills that I wasn't aware of at the time. I kept thinking, man, I guess, what is this going to do for rock and roll? When I get, but it does. It's discipline and,
Sure.
and preparation and being a running back where every time you get the ball, you don't get a touchdown. You got 11 guys trying to kill you.
I wish we had teachers like that today. They need to really teach about life and lessons that are going to help you, not just coddle these little assholes.
Don't get me on that platform because I can't stand laziness and entitlement. I just can't. I said, but I grew up where that just never even occurred to me.
I know.
You're on your own. You make it. It's up to you.
So your story starts on the East Coast, though, in Massachusetts you were raised, but then you do 1 year at Amherst School of Music. How did you get to Indiana? Was it a better school you had heard about? Did you know somebody that went there?
Okay, so the top 3 schools in the country, and still are, Indiana University School of Music, Juilliard, run by, in New York, which is, and then Eastman School of Music, where Steve Gadd went, in Rochester. It's done by a rating system and all kinds of things that I don't know about. But anyway, I was not good enough to get into any of those by a long shot. In high school, I wasn't in the marching band. In high school, I wasn't
Really?
in the orchestra. It just wasn't. I grew up in a small little town of 3,000, and the regional high school, it just didn't have great music program. Plus, I was a jock too, so I was into sports. So after school, that's what I was doing. It was either soccer, lacrosse, or ski. I was a downhill racer because we had snow back then.
Wow.
Point is, I I was also playing in bands. I was in clubs when I was 13 playing rock and roll. So I'm playing Hendrix and Stones and James Brown and Sly Stone and the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And why would I want to be in a marching band with squeaky this or orchestra with a clarinet? It just was not something I desired. So I was great, man. I was just like school, sports, homework, and then we had a barn on our property. And we had rock and roll band practice every night in my barn. So anyway,
What kind of stuff are you interested into? What kind of stuff is influencing you then? Music.
definitely the Stones, Hendrix, big time. Whatever was on the radio, Creedence, Stones, Hendrix, Zeppelin, Sly Stone, James Brown, Cream, a little bit of the Doors. And the things were, bands were coming. Every week was another big band,
Sure, yeah.
So, anyway, the kid in my town was getting better, technically. I said, Tommy, man, you getting your chops are getting good. What are you doing? He said, well, I'm studying with the percussionists from the Boston Symphony Orchestra, which is 3 miles, or summer festivals 3 miles from my house.
Yeah.
And my parents used to take me there to see orchestral concerts all the time. But classical and jazz were on my parents' turntables all the time. They grew up in New York, so it was classical music and serious hardcore, big band and bebop. So that was my whole world until rock and roll came. But anyway, I started taking lessons with this guy. Let me tell you how the first lesson went. I'm a little hungover because I was hanging out with the football cheerleaders the night before. I was a sophomore in high school, so I'm like 16, and maybe 15 at that point. I get on a bus and go to Boston or Newton. I get off and I go up to Arthur Press, is his name, principal percussionist. These guys are like, when they went into music, their parents were like, "Are you kidding me?" They were poor. You don't go into music. You got to be a doctor, a lawyer, a businessman, not this music shit.
And rock and roll, too.
Yeah, and he busted his ass. So anyway, he goes, "What's your name?" I says, "Kenny." "Kenny what?" I'm like, "Uh-oh." "Kenny Aronoff." He says, "What have you prepared for me today?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says,
Audition guy?
I didn't get the memo. He goes, "Well, can you play me a mallet piece?" I says, "What are mallets?"
Wow.
And he's like losing it. Marimba, vibes. I said, I don't play. So you have a timpani piece for me? He says, "I've never played timpani before." And he goes, "Why are you here? What do you play?" I said, "I play drum set." "Oh, you play drum set. Come on down." We go, this was outside. I wasn't even in the house yet. We go down the basement. And he puts on Blood, Sweat, and Tears Spinning Wheels, which I'd been playing along to on my turntable with headphones, stereo. And in about 30 seconds, he stops, yanks me by my collar, and points to a practice pad. He basically started me from the beginning. Now, so I spent sophomore, junior, and senior year studying with this guy, good enough to get it, to play a little bit of timpani, mallets, and snare drum, and a little bit of reading. It's good enough to get into UMass at Amherst. It was more of an ed school. Plus, they had the number 9 lacrosse team in the country, and I was a big lacrosse star in high school.
What are you thinking, though, is the end game of going to a school like this? That you're going to play in an orchestra at that time?
That is the golden question. Funny, I never really was ever going to play in an orchestra. Why did I do it? I think it was, that's a tough question, man, because I was like, why would I do that? But you have to understand, there was no school rock. I mean, Berkeley existed, but it was more of a jazz thing, and
yeah.
I knew that you're not going to make it in jazz. Jazz was going off the charts. I didn't know where to study rock. I was too scared to move to New York or to L.A. or Nashville at that time. So I thought 5 years of college, because in our family, that's what you do. You get an education, and then from there, you pivot that into what you're going to do. So I thought, for 4 years, I thought it was a 4-year thing. I'll figure that out. I'll figure it out. Meanwhile, I'm playing in rock bands all through college, and fusion bands, and big bands, and anything that had to do with drums, I was doing. When I was there, oh man, I got my ass kicked. I mean, I was behind. We have conducting, we have sightseeing, we have piano, we have music history, music literature. You have theory for like forever, and I was way behind. It was very intimidating. But Eastman number third school is 5 hours from UMass. And I said to my dad, I got to transfer. I'm not the best here, but I got to go to I want to be in the best school.
Yeah.
So I go up there to audition. I got in, but they didn't have room for me. In other words, I passed the test, but they only take 14 students. So I'm bummed out. I come back, and I remember at one point I say to this hot cellist, hey, what are you doing this summer? He says, I'm going to Aspen. I says, what's Aspen? He says, well, it's this elite student orchestra in Aspen, Colorado, run by Juilliard.
Wow.
I went, Juilliard. It's number 2. I went, I got to go. Plus, they're going to be there. So they tell you prepare an audition on 3 out of 4 categories. Mallets, which is marimba, timpani, snare drum, and multiple percussion. So being me, I'd prepare on all 4. Make a tape, send it in. Don't hear from anybody. So last day of school, I got my summer plan. Study with the percussionists from the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and I've got an Allman Brothers band now. We're going to play all Allman Brothers music all summer.
Oh.
I had my Neil Young band, my
That's
Hendrix
cool.
band. It was Allman Brothers. So,
It's more of a jam band kind of thing,
yeah.
too.
Which,
Vibe going.
ironically, I'm going to play the last show of the Allman Family Band here at the Wiltern in December.
Oh, yeah.
19th.
Robert Randolph was just in last week. I flew him in from Nashville for Orianthi's record,
he
but
doing it?
he's playing it, too.
Well, I'm going to be
Yeah.
on it.
Sweet. I'll be there, too. Are you playing all night as the house
Just 4
drummer?
songs.
Okay.
So I've been told. So, and Devin is going to record a record. I got to tell him to come here.
This
So I
is
think
the
he's got another
spot.
studio because I'm supposed to be on that record. We got to do it here. I'm going to talk to him today. So anyway,
Nice.
So the last day of school, I'm driving away, and I went, shit, I forgot my mail. I go back. I get my mail. It looks like a check. Open it up. Accepted to Aspen. Last minute. I think I was a alternate because when I got there, I was by far the worst percussionist there, the most underdeveloped. These kids were playing mallets and timpani when they were 6 years old. It was just ridiculous. I got my ass crushed there. Yelled at, just made fun of. But the teacher there was head of the percussion department at Indiana University. And I went,
Wow.
I'm going to IU. And he says, come back in January and audition. I went, no, I'm auditioning here. He says, come back in January. I said, no, I'm going from here to Indiana University, #1 school of music. Are you kidding me? And he goes, you're serious about this? I went, yeah. He says, to get into Indiana University, you have to audition for 4 departments. I think we have teachers from Indiana, and they did. They had brass, woodwinds, opera or vocals, and percussion. I prepare an audition, spent like 6 weeks preparing for it, got in. Spent
Wow.
4 years at IU, got my ass kicked, but by the time I was this junior, second semester at IU, in my 3rd year, I got the principal timpanist. There's 5 orchestras there. I'm in the primo orchestra as the timpanist, and then it just, and every year I was at IU, I auditioned to go to Tanglewood, which is the #1 school of music, summer program in the country, if not the world. First, I have to audition for Vic Firth, who's, famous stick maker,
yeah.
timpanist at the bar. I fail the first year, come back 2nd year. Nope. 3rd year, fail. 4th year, I get in.
The drive you have.
Drive.
Yes.
That's the message. They take 7 percussionists in the whole world. I got to work with Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, Arthur Fiedler, Seger Zauer, and the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Dude, that was the cream. That was the thing that encapsulated me into you are good enough to get in an orchestra. And when I graduated, I get into the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra and turn it down.
Wow. Are you living off campus then in Bloomington?
Yeah.
And with some roommates by yourself?
So the first year I went to IU, I was in the A-Lot house, and I convinced them to have a single because I had horrible allergies. That's how I got out of the Vietnam War too. Oh, dude, if I sneeze, the Viet Cong are gonna shoot us. I went through my draft in Indianapolis, dude. That's in my book. It's a crazy story. But anyway, and then we moved off behind Bear's Place. You remember where Bear's
yeah,
Place?
yeah.
Famous, you guys, famous place for, just great pizza and drinks and they have a
Mother Bears.
Mother Bears and
Yeah,
Bears
yeah.
right there across from the music school. And I lived 2 streets over on Hunter off
Wow.
of maybe Hunter and Jordan. Hunter and Jordan. And I could stumble home, and there was 4 people in this house. It was me, cellist, flautist, and a violinist. And, and it was great. And I did I did the rest of my whole 3 years there.
Are you playing in rock bands around town, too?
Yeah.
Or are you just focused on the classical training?
As much rock and roll as I could do. Fusion, rock, anything. And there's a famous club, which you know, called the Bluebird.
Shout out Dave Kubiak. We love him. I love him.
And I saw people like Sonny Rollins playing there. Mellencamp, before we'd do Farm Aid, we'd go and take over that club and bring in like Lou Reed, John Fogerty, Bonnie Raitt. We'd bring John Prine, whoever we were going to play with at Farm Aid. We'd go in there, take over the club, and play our show in there.
That's, I'm friends with Teddy and Justice and, his kids.
Oh, wow.
And Justice lives on the East Coast, but her husband,
Sister.
Michael Moore, Teddy lives out here.
He's
and then Justice is the younger one. She lives on Hilton Head.
Right, I just heard
Vicky
that.
moved down there.
Yeah, right.
And then actually, I saw HUD. He
Wow.
lives over in Venice, right? Or Marina Del Rey. But
He does?
yeah.
He's out here now?
Yep, he's in working for Interscope, I believe, and then
his dad
obviously
probably helped him out.
his mom too lives out here because she's with the Rolling Stone guy,
Who lives out here?
Elaine.
Oh, Lane, I heard.
Yeah.
She's didn't she marry somebody from
Yeah,
Penske or-
Jay Penske. He owns Rolling Stone magazine and a ton of other
He does?
publications. Yeah, they
Awesome.
live over.
I've gotten
on
a
the west
message
side.
from her. She says, "Tell Kenny I say hi."
She's the sweetest lady ever.
She's
and,
unbelievable.
I love their family, but and also Mellencamp is just a complete god in Indiana because
Yeah.
it really is. You have great cities, and I love it back there, but it's a lot of small towns, no pun intended, and he's the biggest musical person that's ever came out of there.
No kidding.
I mean, he was just massive on those records, like and American Fool, which we'll talk about. Him and basketball and David Letterman are like the 3 biggest things.
It is, and the Indy 500.
And the Indy 500. But for those that don't know, and I know you've told these stories for 700 times, but how did you get hooked up with him? How did you audition for the John Mellencamp Band?
It
Because
was-
Tom Knowles was the drummer, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, from St. Louis. So I turned down the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra when I graduate college, and it was a shock to everybody, including me. And the reason why I turned it down, I didn't know what was happening back then, but I'm very clear what was happening. I was following my heart and not my brain. My brain was saying, you got to go be in this orchestra. And my heart was going, no. This was that pivotal moment where I realized what my purpose was. It was just oozing out of me. Thank God I followed my heart and didn't use my driving brain to go, no, you got to go to Israel. I turned down certainty for uncertainty. I turned down certainty for complete possibility because I didn't know who to call to make it in rock and roll. There's no method book. It's not like you go to law school and you got a law job.
Yeah.
There's a way to get a job. This is like, music is like, there's nothing is defined. So anyway, I spent a year practicing and studying drum set. 8 hours a day I'd practice, just drum set, freaked out that I spent all that time on classical music, and I couldn't see how the 2 worlds were going to meet yet. And so I'm freaking out, like, you got to catch up now. It's like doing graduate school at home. And my teachers were Gary Chester in New York and Alan Dawson, a jazz drummer in Boston. And then a kid from Indianapolis we're talking, he convinces me to move back to Bloomington and start a band, and one of the dads was going to invest, his dad was going to invest $30,000, which back then was like
300.
Yeah. So we're going to get a truck lights PA, our own truck lights and PA. We could roll into any club, and we have our own everything. And that was the premise of and then we'd write songs. We got a house. Do you remember the Roach Motel? It was right on. It was we were the cockroaches. It was 7 of us in a band house basically off of Dunn Meadow, and what we would do is we'd practice every day, or I'd be practicing drums every day. The idea was to write songs, get a record deal, the normal thing, and then you go on, you make a record, then you tour, and you just repeat it. After 3 years, it didn't happen. I'm 27. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So I said, all right, you got to go to New York, Nashville, L.A. I picked New York because I just knew more people there. And I'm a week before going, and I have lunch at this restaurant on 10th Street called the Dow Restaurant with this singer-songwriter, Ruthie Allen. And she said, Kenny, what are you up to? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, you know, da-da-da-da-da. I'm going to go to New York. She says, hey, do you know this guy, Johnny Cougar? He's got, you know, he's on this new network called MTV. I went, yeah, and I hear him on the radio. He's got I Need a Lover. It's all over the radio, and that record with something about going to, it was the John Cougar. It went from Johnny Cougar to John Cougar.
Biography.
It was after that.
I Need a Lover was on Biography.
It was.
Yeah.
And then they re-released it and put it.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
You know what that was? That was his manager. And released it in Australia.
Something Kid.
The Kid Inside was before that. This was just John Mellencamp. And it had something about going to Miami. They made a record in Miami. And then Sugar Marie or some.
I'll think of it in a moment.
Yeah, anyway, so.
You know about Johnny Cougar at the time, though.
I do, because, I heard the songs on the radio. I was coming out of a fusion world. So it was like, I didn't own radio. The concept of being Charlie Watts or Ringo Starr, I hadn't gone back to that yet. So I went, and she said, and he just fired his drummer last night. I went, ding, 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 ding. Holy shit. Radio, MTV, records, touring. They just opened up for Kiss or somebody. Yeah. I'm like, it all just hit me just then. This is what you've been wanting to do ever since you saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show at 10 years old and went, I told my mom, I said, who are those guys? She said, they're the Beatles. I said, I want to play in the Beatles. Call them up now. I want to be in the Beatles. That's what I want to do. Play drums in a rock band at 10. And, of course, she didn't call them up. So I started my own bands. First band was the Alley Cats. My point is, now I went, yes! Exactly. This is what I want to do. I was right back to 10 years old. So I go running out of the restaurant to a payphone, because there was no cell phone, put a quarter in, call up Mike Wanchek, the guitar player from Mellencamp, and I said, Mike, it's Kenny Aronoff. Hey, Kenny, how you doing? I said,
how did you know him?
We just being in clubs. He'd come in to see our Stream Winner fusion band.
Yeah.
I said, Mike, you know, I'd like to audition. I was going to move to New York, but this is incredible. He says, well, I'll call you in 2 weeks. So they started checking around. And this is where that hard work, discipline, that lifestyle really pays off. They checked around, and everybody said, that's the guy.
Nice.
You got to have Aronoff audition. This guy is a motherfucker. He works his ass off and blah, blah. It was only positive things. So I get a call back in 2 weeks, and they said, yeah, John, you can audition. I guess I was one of 50, I was told.
Wow.
First one. And
is Don Gaiman producing that?
No.
Okay, this is still like Chestnut Street Incident era.
Yeah. I don't remember who produced the John Cougar record, the one before. And that's the one they said, just be familiar with it. Well, me, I write every note out. So I'm going like, why are the drummers playing so simple on this stuff? You know, why aren't they doing like Vinnie Colaiuta stuff or Steve Smith? And I hadn't learned how to be a drummer for the radio, because I tell people this all the time. Well, I'll get to that in a second. But my point is, I memorize everything. I practice 6-8 hours a day.
Where do you audition?
So we go out to Lake Monroe. I got this leaking old car, and I've somehow managed to stuff 2 bass drums and tom-tom. I got this massive drum kit. I get out of the car. I don't look cool at all. I hadn't got my... I didn't care about as much how you look. It's more how you sound, you know?
Yeah.
It's a total muso guy. I get out of the car, and John's just looking at me. I can see. He goes, wrong. Looks at the car. It's leaking oil on his driveway. Wrong. And then I start pulling, and I go up to him. Hey, John. Nice to meet you. Kenny Aronoff. And he goes, John Mellencamp. Shakes my hand, turns around, walks in.
That's
I went,
him.
Wow. This guy's different.
Was it a studio, though?
No, it was his house.
Okay.
So it was on Lake Monroe.
The old one, yeah.
And it was built on a ravine, so I had to take my drums down to the lower floor, you know, small.
Because he had some money then, because he had a hit. And
he
was
didn't
getting
have big money.
Yeah, not like
so
now.
Because shortly after, Pat Benatar did I Need a Lover and made it a big hit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I set up.
Because he got big in, sorry to switch channels, but he got big in Europe first.
No, he didn't. He got
That's-
dropped when he was in Europe.
I thought he was making noise in Europe, but wasn't
He
selling
was
records
making
here.
it. What happened was, and this I explain in my book, why he was in such a shitty mood. When he made Biography, I think,
Yeah.
and it was Main Man, which was Tony DeFries, Bowie's manager. The records made, they made him look like a James Dean kind of guy, and Europe didn't buy it. They're like,
Yeah.
really? You know, and so when the record was done, Tony shoves the record across the table to John, and John goes, "Who's Johnny Cougar?"
That's
And,
you.
he says, "That's you." And so, and John says, "It's not my name." He says, "Oh, it's your name if you want this record to come out." Now think about it. He grew up in southern Indiana, the Rust Belt. His uncles were like bricklayers and cement guys. You come home and say, "Hey, my name's Johnny Cougar." They go, "What the fuck's wrong with the Mellencamp name?" They didn't like that. These guys settled issues with fistfights. The grandpa was in fistfights at 70 in bars. I mean, these guys were tough guys.
Richard.
Yeah. So he, yeah. So he gets dropped after a year, and he's Johnny Cougar, and he's working for the telephone company. He is not happy. So he gets a new record deal.
He's got a kid. He's
Yep,
married. He's
yep.
about 21 years old, maybe.
Maybe younger.
young, 19.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 21. And he gets a new record deal, and it's on Riva. The way it went is that, I know we're getting away from the story, but this is a great story.
Yeah.
He calls up everybody. He can't do it. I cannot work for the telephone company. Calls up people in radio, and they get him a showcase at Schaumburg outside of Chicago with
Schaumburg, Illinois.
yeah. And it was Beginnings. It was what's his name, drummer from Chicago's club, Danny Serafin, and he goes up there, and John thinks it's only him. It's not. It's like 5 bands. So John's livid and pissed. And there's a guy, Billy Gaff, who manages Rod Stewart, sent his right-hand guy, whatever, to go check out another artist. And he's drunk, and he's watching John just go for it. John's good. The songs are okay, but he's a star. This guy's looking at him going, "Hey, Billy, the other guy sucks, but I think I got somebody for you."
Wow.
It was John. He brings him to England. And John gets signed by Billy Gaff, which was the manager. You're going to love this. Management, record label, and John used Billy Gaff's lawyer to negotiate their deal.
Wow.
A little conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And so he gets the deal, and every time you wanted to get Rod Stewart, you had to take John Mellencamp. So he got John
Genius.
Cougar on all these TV shows. We did the first American Bandstand with Dick Clark. And anyway, so I auditioned.
At his house, Lake Monroe.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I thought, well, they play in big places. You got to play hard. I already was a really hard player. I remember John's eyes were bugged out. Only time I ever saw him, that ever surprised him. And after 2 songs, he goes upstairs. And I'm packing up and going, "Oh, love this." The loud, Les Paul through Marshalls, Strat through a Fender. I mean, it was just rock and roll. It was like, oh, there's no question. I'm right back to when I was a kid. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Because that music's, it's like garage rock.
Great.
Cool.
It's cool. And so I'm packing up. I said, I got to have this. All of a sudden, John goes, "Mike, get up here." Mike goes up. I'm like, God damn, this guy's vicious. Mike comes down in 10 minutes, smiles at me, shakes my hand, and goes, "Welcome to hell." I'm like, I'm excited, but what do you mean by hell?
Yes.
Which I found out.
Yes.
And anyway, that's how I got the gig. I'm ecstatic, and in 5 weeks, we're going to come out here and record at Cherokee Studios on Fairfax.
Nothing matters and what if it
Yes,
did.
nothing matters and what if it did. And it was with Steve Cropper, which is an interesting choice.
To
But
produce.
and he's a radio guy, but he's an R&B guy. For the people who don't know him, he wrote "Sitting on the Dock by the Bay."
Yeah. He's in the Blues Brothers movies, all kinds of cool stuff.
So, but he understands songs and radio. And I was at Chateau Marmont. I tell everybody.
They put you up at Chateau Marmont?
Yeah,
Wow.
back in the day, there was money everywhere. By the way, there was money because, I'm on 3 albums that sold 40 million. But the record labels are making 82 cents on the dollar. That's 82 cents times 140 million. Do the math. With that kind of money, you can invest in bands to make records could take 9 months.
Yeah.
You can invest. By the way, the bands owe it back, but at their royalty rate, which is 15 or 18%. But the point is, they had money to invest in getting bands in the studio, invest in getting them on the radio, invest in getting them on the road, invest in publicists,
They
invest
hit
in
the
marketing.
go button on you.
It's all money. That's all it takes. Like any business takes money.
Did you guys do some recording of that at Criteria as well? For
Next.
The
That's
next
what
record?
came next.
So you're out here at Cherokee, which Joe Ciccarelli, do you know who Joe Ciccarelli
Yeah.
is? He's got his studio here at Sunset Sound, and he became big at Cherokee,
Yeah,
so he would have been
exactly.
around at those times.
So in 2 days, I'm fired.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, it's the same room I was in when Jack and Diane went to #1. I am devastated. I could see it coming. I got the call to come down to this room, and I know, fuck, this does not feel good. Get there, and John said, you're not playing on the record, and you go home at the end of the week. And the words that came out of my mouth were life-changing.
Yes.
And instead of a fight or flight, you know that saying fight or flight? I'm a fight or fight guy. When I want something... See, when John said, you're going home, you're not making this record, he was stealing. I didn't know this at the time, but this is what it was. He was stealing my purpose. He was stealing this is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I have to do. I have to do. So I felt like a loser. I felt like a piece of shit. Felt like every negative thing you could think. And when John said that, I said, no fucking way am I going home. And the band was like, wow, what's going to happen next?
Someone stood up to John.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear?
So then I go, and I keep going. I go, well, am I still your drummer or what? And he looks at me kind of perplexed, and he goes, yeah, but you're not playing on the record.
Because you weren't busy. You were still green, and you didn't understand recording studio timelines,
Yes.
the quickness of having to,
Exactly.
they were
I
trying to get
didn't-
this done. Yeah.
That's exactly it. I didn't know. I ask drummers all the time this, or any session. What's the purpose of you? What is your purpose playing on this record? You go, oh, drummer go, time, beat. I'm like, no, stupid. Get the fucking song on the radio to be a #1 hit. So if that means pick your nose with your knuckle, you do that.
Yeah.
If that means you don't play drums and somebody else does, whatever it takes. It's not about you. It's about the song, the band, the artist. That was the lesson. And I didn't know nothing about that. Because in order to be great at anything, it's all about you. Me, how do I sound? How do I look? To be Tom Brady, it's about the team.
Yeah.
It's about what can I do to get those people to play so good, and I play so good that we win a Super Bowl. That is what I learned. Didn't even know that I was learning it then, but that's what I was learning. So,
And I admire that so much about you, because also it's a great lesson like we were talking about. You get this amazing education in the meantime because you don't leave, and you stick around and kind of just eavesdrop on the session and learn.
Oh, yeah.
Because they brought in the Van Morrison drummer. What's his name?
we had Ed Green and Rick Schlosser.
Rick Schlosser, who did great
And,
work with
and you
Van
know
Morrison.
what? Rick reached out to me about 10 years ago. He lives in Mexico. Sweet guy. He says, I knew you were going to make it. He says, how the hell would you know? He says, you were asking the right questions, and your attitude was so spot on, and you were hanging around. And these guys were really helpful. They were really nice. And it was humbling. I was embarrassed. I felt like a loser.
Of course.
Because I'm just hanging out. I did get to play vibes and percussion, but I was at that point in my life where I was insecure about, I needed validation. Now, I don't look for validation from anybody. Now I've pivoted the whole thing around where you give yourself validation. Don't look for it from anybody. You be the coach. You be the player. Don't look at it from anybody. Just
Yeah.
if you did a good job. And if you didn't do as good a job as you hoped, you learn from that. And I don't believe there's mistakes, and I don't believe there's failures. They're just events that help you get better.
Yeah.
That's being human. We're not robots. So I didn't know any of this stuff. So I was like all tripping out and freaking.
Life's over.
Yeah.
You stood up. You're like, I'm not going anywhere.
Dude, so where did that come from? I mean, I'm just so lucky it was in me. So I go home, and I realize now I got to learn to be the greatest drummer I can be for John Mellencamp songs, John Mellencamp, for this band. I got to please the producer, engineer, the record label, everybody. And that's when I started to pivot the whole thing around. And that, I said, I vow to make the next record, and the next record was 2 years later, American Fool, won 2 Grammy.
Oh yeah,
Grammys.
it's massive. So you guys tour on the record "Nothing Matters" and "What If It Did." You toured that record, right? That was
Yeah.
you? Or was it Schlosser? He was just only in the.
No, he
just did the recording.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, John said to Steve Cropper, "I don't want to fire Kenny because when the record's over, he's still my drummer. I need him."
Yeah.
And that's I did. I did. John said, "I'll give you a chance," and then we started by opening up for the Kinks.
Wow.
First live show.
That's an amazing story. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But 1981, American Fool, you guys go down to Miami to record it at Criteria Studios, which is Hit Factory now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So many great records.
I know.
This album completely blows up. You guys win 2 Grammys.
Yeah.
And you got Hurt So Good, Jack and Diane on this record. I mean, 2 of the biggest songs ever. And if you go to any bar in Bloomington, it's playing 17 times
It's
the
all
hour.
the time that you go into Trader Joe's out here.
Yeah, I mean, cha-ching.
Yeah, as I tell you, but I made the corporation, John Mellencamp, millions of dollars because Jack and Diane was not even on the record. We didn't know what to do with it. We were young. It was just a little ditty, Jack and Diane. I'm playing cross stick, and so the song's not on the record. I walk in one day, and Don Gayman's got this metal box. I went, "Hey, Don, what's that?"
Did the label put Don Gayman with John? That's what I wanted to ask you because
I
he was.
don't know how Don got the gig.
But he was that first production or producer credit he did and worked with you guys was on American Fool.
You know what I'm thinking? Maybe you know. Did John do any recording down there? I think he did because on the John Cougar record, he's got a song called Living in Miami, and they have him out on jet skis out there. He did something in Miami, and I think Don Gayman might have been recording. Maybe he was down there because he worked with the Bee Gees and all those people down there. And maybe John ran into him, or maybe they got paired up. But this is the first time Don is a producer.
Was he, real quick, John, his songs are just amazing. They're so nostalgic of America and Midwest and hardworking citizens, which I just adore.
Yeah.
Was he writing all these songs, though? I mean,
here's
did
the
he have
writing
a co-writing?
process. Here's the writing process. John would write the songs, but he had George Green. Do you remember George Green? Did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so George Green, sadly, who's left us, George was a great, he was like a book writer. So he came up with like lines like, "Hurt so good, come on, baby, make it." He came up with cool, like Minutes to Memories, which is like unbelievable lyrics. And George wrote that. So George was kind of like a Bernie Taupin to Elton John.
Yeah, mentor.
But John would get all the writing credit most of the time. There may have been a George Green there, but the band had to come up with all the arrangements. And I remember John walking in after American Fool, getting ready to do He says, "Hey, listen, you fuckers, I write the same songs all the time." And I'm thinking, yeah, no kidding. And he says, "I need you guys to come up with innovation and creativity, ideas to make these songs hits that get on the radio. And Kenny, if somebody can play a better beat than what you're playing, you play it. And all you guys, you don't own your instruments. We all play each other's instruments. It's a band. Whatever gets these songs on the radio to be hits." And he walked out of the room, and I went, what a fucking jerk. But he was right.
Yeah.
Back then, I was like, fuck you. But now I look back and go, God damn. I mean, his delivery sucked, but his ideas were right. He was like a coach, like a Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
He was a tough, if you guys don't know, Bobby Knight was one of the toughest basketball coaches ever. He used to throw chairs and strangle his players. But he won all those titles.
Oh, yeah, he crushed.
He reinvented, if you see the movie Hoosiers with what's his name? Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
That was Bobby Knight. So, anyway. So, John was right. And we would have to come up with, and you have to think about this. Let's go back to Jack and Diane. When I walk in and Don Gayman's got this box, I said, "Don, what's that?" He says, "The Lin 1 drum machine." I went, "Drum machine? Drum machine? Those replace drummers." I'm like, I got replaced by 2 humans. Now, I thought, am I the horse and buggy? And the car just showed up, replaced. Fight or fight. I grabbed the box. I went, well, I'm fucking programming it. I want to be part of it. Adapt or die, remember? Adapt or die. There's no way. I didn't go, oh. I went, grabbed the machine, got the manual, programmed what I was playing on the drums. It had 8 outputs, and they thought they'd bring the 8 outputs up on 8, things on the board. And but I'm sitting in the lounge going, what the heck? Is this it? See, John heard the Bee Gees using it next door, and that type of device is perfect for dance music.
Yeah,
1981.
well, Prince in the room right over here. I mean, he
who does?
Prince.
Oh yeah,
See, it makes sense. Drum was everything.
Yeah. So anyway, John calls me in 2 hours later. Goes, Aronoff, we need a drum solo right there. And I'm thinking, on a ballad? I'm excited, but I'm freaking. I'm like, oh my God, I got to save the song to save my career. Because I'll get fired. I got fired before. So thank God they spent all day getting drum sounds. Back in those days, they put drums in vocal booths. Now John wanted to put the drums in the big room, and nobody knew how to mic it. You had your close mics and your overheads, but where do you put the room mics? Because there's a delay between mics, and they were experimenting all day. And then what kind of compression, and which mics do you compress, and what kind of EQ, and it was this huge experiment. All I kept thinking was, serve the song. Let's get this on the radio and get it so it sounds great through little car stereo speakers and little TV speakers. I mean, I had learned the end game. And I'm like, oh my God, finally it's my turn to come in. I'm like, oh shit, I'm scared. Doosh, doosh, doo. Doosh, doosh, doo. Boom, blam! Kick drum, snare drum, and I stopped. And I look in the control room, there's 9 people going. I'm like, and you know what I thought? Still got my job. Still got my job. I'm here. Anyway, I hit a dead end. I go into the control room. I'm scared now. Cortisol levels are up. I'm like, oh my God, not again. I'm traumatized. So half the band's telling me what to do, half the band's telling me what not to do. My head's spinning. I went, you're on your own, buddy. This is a World Series. You're up to bat. Strike out. Team goes home. Hit a home run. You're a hero. So I start heading to the drums. I'm like 40 feet away. I'm like, what are you going to play, dude? I'm 30 feet. I have no idea. 20 feet. What are you going to do? Dude, you're going to lose your job again. 10 feet. I don't know. I get to the drums. I look at them. I look at them. I look at the drums. I'm like, and all of a sudden a light went off in my head. I went, all right, you can't just start from scratch. Why don't you take what you were doing, but just do it differently or adjust it? At least you got something to work with. It's almost like if you had a room full of furniture and you don't like it, you got 2 choices. Get rid of the furniture, buy new stuff, or just rearrange it. I rearranged it. And long and short of it, I came up with that drum fill, and it was...
well, how's it go? Oh, should we play it real quick? I mean, it's the most identifiable drum fill ever, but do it real quick for it.
Boom, blam! Boom, let it rock, so let it roll. And it was what's his name from Bowie's band that came up with, tell Kenny to keep playing a beat and sing the chorus over it. I'm spacing his name. The coolest dude in the world. I'll think about it. It was David Bowie's guitar player, and he's the one that came up with it, an English guy. And that's where, long and short of it, I came up with this beat, and they sang all. And
so they also think that was like fire right there? Like, oh, that's cool.
They thought it was cool.
Okay.
John was excited. But we didn't. It got on the record. That's all we knew. It made it to the record. So back in the day, as you all know, the way they test market to see what's going to be a single is they play all the songs on album-oriented radio format, and people call and say, oh, we like this one. Oh, we like this one. Hurt So Good tested real well. And by the way, when we were recording Hurt So Good, they brought in the vice president of Polygram, and he didn't get it. He went,
wow.
John, I don't get this. You should be more like Neil Diamond. John walked him to the door and kicked him in the ass so we lost our record deal, but we got it back. I didn't know this.
After Hurt So Good came out.
It tested well. John got the record deal back, and it went to number 2. The thing that kept us from number 1 was Eye of the Tiger because Rocky had just come out.
Yep.
So I talked to a record A&R guy recently. I said, come on, John, the Polygram could have laid $1 million on the table and got this thing number one. I said, very true, but it was the Scotti brothers that was behind Eye of the Tiger, which is basically the mafia. So they probably went, we'll let this one go. But anyway, so they start, Hurt So Good goes from number 2, starts to slide a little bit, and immediately testing the next song. And the song that tested great, that people kept asking about, was Jack and Diane. They release it, goes to number 1, Hurt So Good stays in the top 10. We've got 2 songs in the top 10.
Wow.
Suddenly, like, who the hell is this Johnny Cougar guy? And who's playing drums on Jack and Diane?
Had he switched to Mellencamp by that point, the name? Or was he still...
On American Fool, it was John
Mellencamp, right?
Cougar still.
Really?
Yeah. Uh-huh. The next album, now John's like, fuck this. John Cougar, Mellencamp, and then Scarecrow, John Mellencamp.
Yeah.
And from a marketing standpoint, it got confusing. You go into Tower Records, do you go to the M's or do you go to the C's?
Yeah.
And it really was a little bit frustrating for the label. They didn't know. And John says, well, just put a picture of me and as you walk in. Just, that's what he wanted.
Did you feel, how did the success affect you? People react to success differently, whether you're the front person or the drummer. I mean, you're doing completely giant gigs at this point. You guys are everywhere. You're doing television appearances. What did you think personally? Like, holy shit, this is awesome? Or did you have self-doubt where they're going to oh, my God, they're going to find out. They're going to find out about it.
At first it was when Jack and Diane went to number 1, I was like, oh, my God, I'm not number 1. They're going to find out. I'm really not that good. And then it was great. I became kind of like the Keith Richards in the band, kind of like, it was like John and this crazy, energetic, powerful drummer guy.
Plus, sorry to cut you off, but during that song and the drum solo we were just talking about, that's such, if you've ever been to a John Mellencamp concert, the whole crowd is air drumming to that thing.
Yeah.
But that was so cool for you, obviously, to have a number 1 song in the world, which was gigantic at the time, and you have such an integral part of it.
I know. And the audience, okay, I turned down an Elton John tour years later. And
what record?
I did 4 songs with Don Was at Ocean Way for a box set. Elton Like Me wanted me to be on tour. So we're playing it at the, not the Staples Center, but one of the big...
Forum?
The Forum.
Yeah.
We're at the Forum. And sold out, 360. We didn't have opening acts. We didn't need them. We had so many hits. No opening act. 3-hour show with an intermission, 15-minute intermission, and kids were standing up dancing before the show. We had dancing, rock and roll. Everyone's drunk. Girls would throw bras, underwear at us. We weren't Motley Crue, but we were
right there,
creeping in there. So Bernie Taupin comes. I'm backstage, getting close to walk through, out to the, where the, the arena, and Bernie goes, I can't believe you turned down Elton John. I went, me either. I said, it's one of the craziest things I've ever done. I said, but Bernie, come here. I pointed out there. I said, see all these crazy people?
Yeah.
They all know who I am. It's like I'm not a side guy here. I recorded 98% of these songs tonight.
Yep.
And every time I get to the Jack and Diane Phil, this place is air drumming, not to something I'm copying. It's like I belong to this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready to leave Mellencamp.
No way.
I said, Bernie, why are you here? To see Mellencamp,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I said, and he says, I get it. But still, that was one of the, and and Elton John, even John was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did it, you dumbass. But the thing is that, Elton John's one of the greatest ever. But
you wanted to ride the wave of that. Plus, it's the Indiana back ties, and you knew at that point when John had the 2 songs in the top 10, one of them number 1, that this shit was about to take off.
Oh, dude,
and it was already took off.
Oh, dude, and you're on Saturday Night Live, and then all of a sudden, when John, I was following John's footsteps. He was nervous as shit. He says, we got to do it again, just because we got. I totally related to him. He thought, God, dude, we can lose our record deal like that. So that's why he was giving us the speech afterwards. We need hits. And that's when he wrote Pink Houses and the Authority song and Crumbling Down. As a matter of fact, John decided, I don't want to record in Miami and Fuck L.A. and New York. I want to.
I want to talk about that, but let's go. I got a comment just for my Indiana Hoosier people because "Hurt's So Good," the video you guys shot, which you're in, literally is one of the greatest MTV music videos ever. Which I wish MTV was even close to what they used to be.
Yeah.
But again, in a small town, Medora, Indiana, and John's brother's kind of a Hell's Angel, kind of facilitated his cousin.
Yeah.
You guys shoot that video, and that thing was just so cool and cheesy and amazing. And did John come up with that whole concept, or did he finance that himself? Do you remember?
No, I think there was budgets for that. But for people who are watching, this was a small town. I don't even know if it was a stoplight there. Small redneck town, southern Indiana. We're in a little bar. His cousin was like a Hell's Angels guy, great guy.
The bar's still there too.
It is?
Yeah.
I mean, Tracy, he loved me but he's the type of guy that just watch you. And I saw him one night. We were in Stockholm, and someone was drunk, a big-ass, Swedish guy.
Tracy is John's cousin, but also a giant. He was a bodyguard
he's
kind
one,
of
Yeah, he's one of these guys, you touch his arm, it feels like wood. it's like, and so I remember somebody fucking with us in a really fancy bar, and Tracy said very quietly, said, "I think you need to leave." The guy kept fucking with him, and dude, Tracy, in like millisecond, popped the guy, broke his nose, blood everywhere, and then we walked out. But that's Tracy. He was like, you don't know, this guy was a street fighter. He knew, and he was classy about it, but you don't fuck with Tracy.
Yeah.
And but
you don't fuck with John. John's a fighter too. Those guys, even Hud, his son, is a boxer.
Yeah,
they've got.
And, they're just Indiana tough guys. But so that bar, I don't know. I think it was Bruce Gower, was a famous videographer and got in the film, and he put together with John. John wanted the Harleys. The thing that was brilliant about John in this, nobody knew anything about Indiana in the whole world.
Yeah.
And now you're showing farmland and trains in the Midwest. And John and the director, they captured the real essence of Indiana. And Small Town, the song Small Town we did, Pink House, all these songs, Scarecrow, when the farming, the family farmer plight came out. John did all his videos in Indiana, and people, it was authentic. And they, like you said, they cut it and they filmed it right. It was the real shit. John had all these, they didn't fly people, supermodels in. No, they had the bikers dancing, and this is how they did. They didn't know how to dance. And they were like, "It's so good," teeth out and a headband, It was like, and they're riding on the most. We had the chick chains on the bar dancing, and and these were just locals, and it was so genuine.
But that's so right, because and nostalgic that people could really identify with who he was that way. Visually, MTV broke gigantic artists. John had already been big, but the music was so relatable with the videos then, because it was right on who he was.
Exactly, you nailed it. You put the two together. It was genuine. Music was genuine. Videos were genuine. It was a package.
Also, those records, how they were mixed. It's also kind of aggressive, if that makes sense. But the drums were always brought up a little bit. Garage band sound.
Dude, I lucked out. John wanted. You know what John said? I want my record to blow the shit out of any record that comes after us. And I want to crush any record that comes before us. And one way you do that is you put the drums way up in the mix. What makes people dance? Drums and then the vocalist. Everything else, John, we do sound checks and he would walk the whole venue. And he wanted the drums so friggin' loud and vocals and everything else was extra. And that's that put me on the map.
How did John's personality, anybody that knows and of John Mellencamp, he's a tough guy in a lot of ways to work with, physicality, a million things. How did his personality kind of change throughout that, from American Fool, was he always kind of the same? He knew this was going to be, he was going to be the biggest rock star in the world? Or did he get very ego? Okay.
He had fear he was going to lose it again. And it's such a struggle to make it, and I think he had self-doubt about himself too, and so he was relentless on everybody around him, screaming at managers, screaming at A&R people, screaming at us, screaming. He was he started smiling less and less, and became more and more just a pit bull, and he felt insecure enough, like he had to beat his last record. But it was a lot of pressure, and he wrote that song on the Big Daddy record when he decided he wanted to take some time off. In 1987, our last show at Summerfest after the Jubilee, we'd been going 8 years straight. I was going 8 years straight with him.
Wow.
Write songs, arrange the songs, record songs, promo for songs, rehearse for tour, do tour. That's 2 years. Take a month off and start again. I'd done it for 8 years. He did it a little bit more than that, and he was fried. We do this Big Daddy record, and one of the songs on the Big Daddy, the only one that wasn't introspective and quiet, was Pop Singer. And it's like boom, 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 boom. I don't want to be no pop singer. I don't want to be no rock star. And I'm like, that guy's so full of shit. He does. But he didn't. I didn't see it coming. He was burnt out. He was like, he felt the pressure. How am I going to beat? We're flying around in private jets. We're selling out arenas. Scarecrow Jubilee albums were huge. Well, everywhere. Where's there to go? And I think he felt the pressure, and he was starting to get. So those lyrics were not by accident. I'm done. I'm fried. I'm beat up, and obviously he didn't stop, but that was a huge change.
Sure. Let's talk about real quick. Which you guys, is that when you moved into the Shack?
Yeah.
Okay, and the Shack was a house which was John's sister's in outside of Bloomington, Brown County area.
No, Brown
or Nashville, Indiana.
Brownstown.
Yeah,
Near Medora.
Yeah. Yes.
Like we're talking on a pig farm.
And you guys brought in the mobile truck from Criteria.
Yeah.
Just because he wanted to record at home then? Or
John said, I don't want to go record anywhere else. I want to record. So he thought, instead of building a studio, he'd try it with a mobile unit. I think it was Don Gaiman who gave him that idea and took over his sister's. This was like
a shack.
A shack, maybe 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
And it was pigs and goats and, we just took this house, just rewired it, and it was just drywall everywhere, and we recorded those songs in there. And I'll never forget, we did. So now we knew, and we brought in, what's his name, the bass player from Brothers Johnson, who'd played on Beat It,
Oh, really?
Louis Johnson.
Gotcha.
He was this great, and he came up with a line on maybe the Authority song, I don't know, whatever song, but he was great. And he'd bring in people. But basically, the bottom line is, we get the record done, and now we know we can do records in Indiana. Okay, so the is done. John calls me up. I'm in Bloomington. He said, what are you doing, Aronoff? Some practice.
You're living there too, obviously, so it's great because all the band members are from Indiana.
Yeah,
They're
we all live in
hanging
Bloomington,
around.
renting houses.
Yeah.
And so John says, I wrote a song. It's going to be the first single. I went, well, the record's done. It's done. It's been mixed, master. He says, no. See, he was still paranoid that he didn't have enough singles. So he kept writing, and George Green and him, I think, was involved. He writes a song called Crumbling Down. He says, I'll be there in 20 minutes, and I'm crapping in my pants because I'm like, oh, my God, I got to save the song. And it was right there I figured out a way to deal with my nerves with regard to when you're feeling that pressure. You could be, whether you're in sports or music or a corporate meeting, when the question's coming to you. So here's what I came up with. All right, when he plays me this song, I'm just going to think of the most obvious beat. And then I'll embellish it a little bit. So that'll be 2 beats now. And I'll embellish it more, get a little more outside. Finally, I'm just going to come up with something completely out of the box. So every time he'd play a song, and after Jack and Diane, by the way, every time he'd write a song on acoustic guitar, he'd play it for you twice on acoustic guitar. He'd go, what do you got, Aronoff? What pressure. You'd have to come up with stuff that doesn't even sound like that song, but it has to be simple and like a Charlie Watts or a Ringo Starr thing that was clever. This really difficult. It's not obvious.
Did John understand music though? I mean, was he kind of just C, D, A, G? That's kind of like
no. Here's what. It's a great question. He understood what wasn't good.
Okay,
and he had to demand. He was searching for greatness, but he knew what was cool. But he couldn't come up with it all the time. That's why he depended on us.
Yeah.
Like on Whenever We Wanted, Love and Happiness. The original beat was, well, they're dropping those bombs on the hemisphere. It was like a campfire song. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And what I did to come up with that was I thought out of the box. And we spent 2 days on it, which is rare. Usually John only take 2 hours. If it's not happening, fuck it.
Wow.
So we keep trying it, and I said, all right, forget it. I'm going to think, well, let's see. What would Peter Gabriel's drummer do? In your eyes.
Awesome.
And John went, whoa. Give it to those toms. I like that thing on the snare drum. And see, that's where John, he becomes the director. He'll sit there and go like, okay, I like that. What's that pedal there? So, well, that's a double bass drum pedal. Use it. Are you serious on your record? He made me do it. And he just was that way. He knew how to direct and get shit out of people.
Did he clash with the producers a lot?
Yeah.
I bet.
Dude, like when they go like, I think it was on Paper and Fire. They go like, dude, that's not gonna work. And you say to John, it's not gonna work. It's full on, 1 million on red, and.
Who was playing? So Lisa Germano later enters the picture later, who's from Mishawaka, Indiana, by me. But who was playing fiddle and violin on those early records that you worked on? Would they bring people in?
No, she's one. I brought her in because we were doing. I mean, on the record.
She started that early on the
yeah.
Okay.
What it was, well, not on the record, but after was Scarecrow, and John did this thing with his grandma, and he wanted a violin, and I said, well, I know a violin because I was doing this country gig. We were off tour, and my son had just been born, and I filled in for somebody. But that's where I learned how to do the number system. It was literally called the Little Nashville Opry, and they would bring it was hardcore country. It was like the Opry in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they would bring, it was like a 15-piece band with fiddle, pedal steel, and I learned the number system and how to write charts the way they do it in Nashville. It taught me how to play country music. So eventually, when I became a session drummer, my skill set was already, I understood country music, everything that was going on down there. I brought her in. She was in that band.
Oh, wow.
I brought her in, and John immediately liked her.
Fascinating player, person.
Yeah.
Interesting, shout out,
right?
Lisa Germano, yes. So Belmont Mall Studio, when does that come into play? When did you guys first record
All right,
that?
so after the...
And who owns Belmont Mall?
What?
Who owns Belmont Mall?
John.
John owns the whole thing, no partners.
Yes, he spent
started.
$75,000 on a little house.
Yes.
Everybody, well, not anymore. Bloomington, I hear the prices have jacked up because that's the place to live.
Number one business school now, too.
Yeah. So, after proved to be a very successful record and we made it at home, John went, okay, now I will build a studio. So he takes over this house in Belmont, adds a studio on the back of it, modeled after a studio out here called Rumbo.
Yes.
And Greg Edwards, who was an engineer, sadly isn't with us anymore, he helped design it with Don Gaiman, and they basically, it was a very interesting room. Not very good with low end in the room.
Belmont?
Yeah.
Rumbo. Yeah, okay.
And if you're sitting in the back, in the control room with the couches, the room wasn't tuned great, so you had a lot of low end back in the chair where John would be sitting on the couch from the control room. So it was a lot of bass, but it wasn't showing up on tape. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of bass in the room, but you thought you had a lot of bass where you were sitting. And so we had to then start mixing records and go in the car and put our CDs in our cassettes to hear, oh, wow, it's not enough bass, and then they would add more.
Well, that room, fun fact is, we have a Neve 8088 here in Studio 2 at Sunset Sound, but that board came from Rumbo, which Appetite for Destruction was cut on that board here in the room we're sitting. But the room at John's Belmont Mall studio is kind of influenced off the Rumbo room. Is that correct?
Totally.
Yeah.
The design, the physicality of it. But we have a Trident A range, and I assume that's what was in
Well, that's
Rumbo.
another great story about this room, because we had a Sound Techniques console here back in 65 to 74. There's another great video up on Sound Techniques if you want to. Frank Zappa, the Stones. I mean, so many records were done on those boards. Zeppelin 2 and 4 worked on in this room on that Sound Techniques, but they all thought that was the Trident A range. It was actually a Sound Techniques A range, and they kind of that company tried to confuse people a little bit. But yeah, that's such a fun fact about that.
I know.
Boards, it was at that studio. Then I went to Canada and we got it. I gotta also go back to Lisa. Check It Out. It's such a great track between you two. I mean, that's probably my favorite Mellencamp
Dude, that
song.
is such a oh my
Beautiful.
God.
And the words lyrically, what it means, that solo she has, plus your intro on the drum off of it. I mean,
Yeah, but it gets deeper. I played hammer dulcimer.
oh, you did.
See, John, this is John Mellencamp. We're about to do Scarecrow. John comes in one day and says, first thing he did, he was doing more and more business. He comes in with like a shitload of albums, LPs, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Throws them and says, I want you guys to learn the hits on these songs and tell me what made them hits. So I started writing out beats to like songs we grew up with. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize the drummer was doing that. Why would he do that? So I created this thing called the Book of Beats. So when John would like come in and play a song, I go, oh, I'll try that beat. And it would be something like Hal Blaine played, with Nancy Sinatra or whatever. It was just different. Because rock and roll was different back then. Anyway, that was one thing. The other thing John said was, all right, you guys. Was it that album? I think it was Scarecrow or Jubilee. No, it was Jubilee. The album after Scarecrow, he goes, I want you guys to all learn instruments that you don't know how to play. Everybody has to learn a new instrument. Kenny, you can't do vibes. You already did it. So I got this hammer dulcimer.
You're cheating.
Yes. So I got this hammer dulcimer that was like 90-something strings or something. And that's why I came up, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. And they had it mixed up real high, but I think they thought it was a little too Appalachian. So it was me, violin, and maybe accordion playing that line. If you hear, you'll see I'm mixed underneath. And I played all the way through it. And then, I overdubbed.
Maybe a little bit of understanding. What
and that break.
Song.
Yeah. Blah, blah, doo-doo-dee, blah, blah, da-da-da-da-da-da. That's what John... See, John, it's really difficult to come up with something that's creative and simple. Dude, Justice and Independence, which has got this big drum break.
It's named after Justice Mellencamp, too.
Exactly. John would go, give me a drum solo right now. What? Right in the middle. And that was kind of like a... It was like a march, a jazz thing. Then I turned to Gene Krupa. And then you had a trumpet to it. Like, what? In the middle of a rock album? He just was always pushing and trying to do things that most people would say is wrong and impossible. And not every time it worked, but when it did, people would go like, guy's creative. I mean, he's got incredible ideas.
Quick question. Did you ever see him take a sip of liquor?
Yeah, like this.
And obviously no weed or anything. I mean, he never...
No weed,
hated
no
that
drugs.
shit.
John, which is good to have a leader like that, but John was so jacked up on cigarettes and coffee, his doctor said, you need to drink a little red wine just to chill you out. And I hate it. He'd hold his nose. Isn't that weird?
Yeah,
no drugs.
I know.
We were drinking and partying, but not him.
I know that about him, but I just wondered in the early days in the the 80s if he ever did anything. So you and John record together up until the self-titled album John Mellencamp, and then Dane Clark joins the band. What happened with you and John's relationship before that record?
Okay,
I know he had said that he was kind of quitting.
Well, what happened? He quit at the last show after we'd sold out all these arenas, the Jubilee Tour, and he hands me a bonus check back when they used to get bonus checks. He'd say, hey, fucker, don't spend this in one place. I'm quitting for 3 years. Now, the way he said it was believable. If I'd been smarter, I would have gone, there's no way he's going to quit for 3 years. But the bottom line, and now I understand, he was burnt out.
Yeah.
I just played drums. and pick up chicks or whatever. But the thing is, he was running this business 24/7, so it wasn't fun anymore.
Plus, family life had came into the picture then.
Yeah,
Divorces.
Yeah. It was all the above. So I had just gotten divorced, and I had child support and house and payments and all this shit. So I'm like, wow, he's quitting? I've been working with this guy for 8 years, and if he quits, I'm out of a job. So the next day I woke up, I went, you know what? Fight or fight again. I went, I can't be dependent on one guy anymore. So instead of working with one rock star, now I'm going to work with all the others. So I started coming out here more and more. I was already doing sessions, but I was on the phone nonstop. And back in the day, you know, LA was like a beehive. You'd go to all the clubs and there'd be A&R people, managers there, lawyers there, bands looking for deals, and deals were getting made. I'll sign that band. I'll sign that band. I mean, I was in the dressing room with No Doubt, and they were playing at Club Lingerie, and I thought, that's interesting, ska band. No one will sign them.
That's such a cool club.
Yeah.
El Bar right here on Sunset. Actually.
Sunset.
Yeah.
But the point is,
Nobody will sign them.
I suddenly hook up with Don Was.
Yes.
And now I'm making Elton John, you know, Bob Dylan, Iggy Pop, Bob Seger, who I eventually went on tour with. I could have gone on with Elton John. All of a sudden, my world changed. And so...
it's a blessing in disguise in some area a little bit.
Oh, it was totally a blessing.
You're doing diversity now with your drumming and the music you're playing.
Yeah.
You have diversity.
Diversity and 2 different careers now. So when I come back in the band in 1991...
Are you living in Bloomington then
Yeah.
and flying out here for sessions at Sunset, Cherokee, wherever?
Yeah, because the budgets were so big. I had drums in Nashville, New York, L.A., Indiana, of course, Germany eventually, and Japan.
Wow.
And people would fly me all over the world. And first class, you know, everything was on the... And then when I never forget being at... It was right about when the Michelle Branch record was happening. I realized I'd show up. Instead of everybody building on the drums, I was the last thing. Because it's cheaper for John Shanks to program everything, or these producers do all their shit in their small home studios or their smaller studios. And then when it's time to put drums, you go into the big room, like this room was where I did Michelle Branch, her first album, that song Everywhere. It was here you overdubbed the drums to existing tracks, which made it very complicated. Sonically, I had to figure out the regular drums and setup wasn't working suddenly, and all of a sudden I had to go, if somebody wasn't in time and they were keeping it, I would have to adapt to where they were. So it was a whole new world was changing. But the bottom line is had created this other career when I got back with John. John...
Did he resent that?
He resented it a little
Big
bit.
time.
Mostly because he said to me once, we were younger...
What were you supposed to do? Sit around and wait for him?
Yeah. Well, see, eventually I took myself off a retainer. It wasn't very much money. I could make more in one day on a session than my whole month retainer in net dollars. So I took myself off retainer, which if I were him, I would have gone like, whoa, that's Kenny's signaling. Like, you know, what does that mean? And if I were John, if he really thought he needed me for whatever reason, he'd say, okay, dude, we need to have a talk. What's going on here? But that's not John. He isn't that guy. So I took myself, and sure enough, I'm doing like a Hank Jr. record down there, and John said, I need you tomorrow. I said, I can't. I'm in the middle of a Hank Jr. You just got to tell these people.
Pissed him off so bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll never forget. I was doing Little Feat. That's that Hank Jr. Came later.
Little Feat in this room?
No, it was out in Henson B with this girl, Sanna Salomonsen from Denmark. The drummer for Little Feat, Richie Hayward's with Eric Clapton. So they need a drummer. And they're the backup band for this girl. And so they hire me. I get a call. I'm on the phone. John says, listen, fucker, you got to just, when you can do these gigs, I don't care what session you do, but when I call you, you got to come. I said, John, but producers build albums around rhythm sections. They want the band, the artists to go like, we want that guy. And it makes a difference. So when I commit, I have to commit. And he
You
hung
couldn't
up
start
on me.
tracking. He hung up on you.
He hung up on me.
You couldn't wait a couple weeks though to start tracking. You've been with him for 8 years.
Nah,
now
John-
you're 2 years off. He calls you.
3 years off.
Yeah, but you couldn't be like, I can be available in 3 or 4 weeks. But
Or how about next week?
Yeah.
But he was not like that. It was an ego thing. He just, no, it's my way, and that's the only way.
So that was the end of it.
No, we somehow we stayed in. He brought. There was one time I'm auditioning for Tom Petty. Stan Lynch is out of Tom Petty's band. And Stan calls me up. Yo, Kenny, your boss called me up. He wants me to play some tracks on his record. Should I UPS or FedEx my drums? I said, what's more expensive? FedEx. I said, FedEx them. And so,
but that was the end of you and John then, right? When he
not
hung
yet.
up?
We're still in and out. Stan told me, but it was funny that both of us were playing for each other's bosses.
Wow.
They go, hey, Stan, can you tune your snare drum up? And then finally he goes, you want me to shave my head too? You know what I mean? Stan's great. I'll never forget. I was hanging out with Don Henley at his place in Malibu, and Stan, and they're going to compose. They're going to write. Those guys, the Lyric Kings, are going to write a letter for me to send to John. I wish I had a copy of it. I don't know whatever happened to it, but it was something like they were like. Then we went out and got drunk, but you know, we were like, they were coming up with and they're very good with lyrics, so it was gonna be great.
So tell me, how did it not end then? If he
All right, so what happened was, he tried these different drummers, and then I'd come back, and sort of, but there was a lot of tension, and finally I asked John, listen, I got asked to do a 6.5 month tour with Bob Seger. Are you cool? He says, yeah, that's all right. I mean, as long as you can we got one more week. He was really being cool. One more week to finish a record. So, and it worked out with the Bob Seger schedule. But while at the end of the Bob Seger tour, I mean, I was getting paid so much more money, like 4 times as much. It was so easy. And everyone was so pleasant. I wasn't part of the band, so I didn't get involved with the politics. It was sold out arenas, and it was such a fun experience. And more money, I just thought, what am I doing? And so I get a call to record with somebody, do a thing, and now we're banging heads again. And John just finally said, I've had enough, maybe we should just part ways. And I spent 4 days writing a letter and writing everything down. See, it's like getting divorced. I mean, when there's a struggle, it means you know what you really want to do, but you're fighting what you think you should do.
Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to your childhood and guilt and shit. So I was struggling, and I just too scared to leave. But we decided, and John said, we won't trash each other. Of course, he did in Rolling Stone. Next interview, he trashed me like, made fun of me, but whatever, doesn't matter. And so, yeah, we parted in '96. Yeah, it was a little sad, but it was time to move.
Yeah.
I was ready. It was time to move before that, but I didn't have the guts to do it. And it's hard to walk away when you're like a main guy, everybody can't. I mean, people
Big time.
all knew me.
And the Indiana thing. I mean, people don't understand. Like that band. There was just. It was like the Rolling Stones.
It was like the Rolling Stones, and everybody in Indiana is so cool about it. Everybody's just friendly. It's no big deal. But you also, if you're nice, everyone treats you so nicely. Not better, but it was just a cool thing. It was very comfortable.
I can go on John Mellencamp stories in Bloomington about a million things forever.
Yeah.
I love Bloomington. It's such a great campus city, though, and just the area around it. When's the last time you talked? And the Buskirk Chumley Theater, such a great venue. When's the last time you talked to John?
I sold out the Buskirk as an evening with Kenny Aronoff speaking.
Oh, really?
Because when my book came out, I have a side thing where I'm a motivational speaker. So I've been developing. I have a whole show, and it was so cool coming back to Indiana and selling out the Buskirk Chumley.
We should do something together there sometime. Like put a showcase or a band or a.
Let's do it, man.
We'll
do a combination of things. We should, because that's right on Kirkwood.
Yeah.
Great theater, maybe 300-400 seats.
Like
It's
right
really
when fall
nice.
time too.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
But when's the last time you talked to John? I know he gave you. He contributed to Modern Drummer book or both of them.
No, just the autobiography.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I did a Bomber inauguration when that was. I performed with him and we talked then. And then I guess after it might have been there. And then there was one, I know, it was a Music Cares. It was great. It was Music Cares honoring Bob Dylan. And he's, and I'm going to play with him. I'm the house drummer with Don was. And it was really cool. I did a cocktail kit standing up. And it was a very, very cool song. And I remember walking up to him. He was with Meg Ryan. He's got a trailer, smoked a cigarette. I walk up to him, and he's looking at me like, I went, hey, John. You remember, this is the way, I go, hey, John, you remember you used to tell me I look like a dork, had a ponytail? I said, you were right. I was a dork. That was like the most stupid thing. Says, Kenny, the problem is that you were just one of 6 guys that were doing shit like that. Like, dude, you guys were, it was all about us sucking. But it was funny, though, so we would laugh. I mean, I have not one negative thing. I'm the type of guy that moves on. Sure. I don't have one negative. When I first left the band, I had nightmares, but now it's like...
Yeah. Well, it's a blessing in disguise because you're one of the most sought-after drummers, definitely one of the most famous drummers ever. I mean, you do the Kennedy Center, how many times? 13 times or something?
No, I did 7. That
7
was like,
times.
Dude, I mean, it's like when you got Sting walking in and going...
Oh, God. Yeah. Everybody walking in.
They all go... You know what I heard they do? They go like, well... who's playing? Who's in the band? And they go, Kenny Aronoff. Says, oh, good, thank God. Because I'll never forget. Don Henley was doing one. Maybe he was honoring. It was some show. I can't remember. And I'm on the drum set. It wasn't Kenny Aronoff. It was a big one. It was honoring. It was a farewell thing for Kenny Rogers. And it's like a 15-piece band. It's got Keith Richards, Loretta Lynn. I mean, it's just everybody. And I'm writing charts, and somebody says, Don wants you. And I went. Oh, Don was. He's right there. He says, no, Don Henley. I went, oh, shit. I get off the thing, and I said, Don, I got to go see Don. Go there. I said, and Don's smiling at me. I said, hey, Don. He says, hey, Kenny, how you doing, man? I says, dude, it's so cool you're here. He says, yeah, I owe the guy. Because Kenny Rogers was the one that convinced Don Henley to come to L.A.
Wow.
And he got him a publishing deal. That then turned to Eagles. But Don, I says, hey, Don, listen. He says, hey, the song is Desperados at 83 beats per minute. I went, I do know that, but your piano player starts it. I don't come in until... Yeah. And he says, okay. I says, listen, I got you covered. He says, you're the least of my worries. When Don Henley says that, dude, that's big because Don's very opinionated. So, yeah, I mean, it's so cool, that whole work ethic. And they know, like a Dave Gold, Lady Gaga, Bruce Springsteen, Sting, Herbie Hancock, whoever it is, and they say, Kenny's there, they go, oh, yeah, Kenny's good. I don't have to worry.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have to worry.
Yep. And that's another reason, I mean, being from the Chicagoland area, I'm a massive Smashing Pumpkins fan. I have a Smashing Pumpkins tattoo.
You do?
Yeah.
What is it? Does it say
heart.
Smash? Oh, the heart.
Yeah, I was actually...
Love them.
I moved out to Los Angeles 17 years ago, but I lived in Hollywood, and I would just go get random tattoos. And I was listening to a Smashing Pumpkins Gish album, I think, which has the heart on the cover.
Cherub Rock?
That's on
that's
Siamese Dream, yeah. Jimmy Chamberlain's one of my favorite drummers.
Oh, man.
I mean, he's just incredible.
He's incredible.
But he's very public, and everybody knows he had a problem with heroin at the end of the 90s. So Billy Corgan fires him after the death of Jonathan Melvoin. Yeah. And he starts working with producer Brad Wood in Chicago.
Yeah.
Fires Brad Wood, and then comes into this room we're in right now and does the rest of the Adore album, which was such a pinnacle album for Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah. But Rick Rubin's producing, Matt Chamberlain's out here. And then Jimmy's out of the band, and they're using a drum machine. And, Behold the Nightmare was done on that piano right there. Wow. I mean, just the coolest things ever. That's why I love Sunset. But you get involved to tour the Adore record. And...
Dude, I'll tell you the story. So when Jimmy had that unfortunate, Jimmy, by the way, Melvoin, he thought Jimmy had died. They were together.
Yeah.
But Melvoin, then Jimmy wakes up and Melvoin's gone. So it was a real sad thing. And Billy had to do, he had to immediately tell Jimmy you can't be in there because the press was there. So they had to do what they had to do, to handle that unfortunate situation. So when that happened, somebody had reached out to me, and I was on tour with Bob Seger. I called up management for the Pumpkins, said, listen, if you need anybody to fill in, I'll just get I can at least finish the tour for you guys. Keep making money, honor your dates. So they said, send in your resume. And so, okay, I'll follow up with that. And then I didn't hear from them. 2 years later, when they're doing the Adore album, I'm at the Sofitel Hotel right there across from the Beverly Center. I get a phone call from Sid Bernstein. Kenny, this is Sid Bernstein. We represent the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm like, what? When? What? The record? They're making a record, right? He says, no, it's not the record. And I'm like, oh, shit. He says, well, we're thinking we're going to audition a few drummers for the tour. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, oh, God, okay. He says, all right, are you interested? Yes, when, where, blah, 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 blah. He says, well, I'll get back to you, but it'll probably be in a month. But I need to ask you a question. If you get the gig or you win the audition, can you say yes? I went, well, when is the tour? When's rehearsals? When am I getting paid? I can't say yes. I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. So I said,
where was the audition at? Here?
No. So I fly. I'm out here doing a record, and I fly all the way to New York.
Oh, wow.
And I've memorized and learned every single Smashing Pumpkins song. I get there. It's raining. I finally get to the SIR, I think it was, at maybe 10 o'clock at night. And Billy didn't even show up till 1. Darcy's on the phone the whole time. James is, hi, nice to meet you, and goes over there. See, this is exactly what happens to a lot of bands that have been just going bow, 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 like what happened to Mellencamp, to burn out. They needed a break. But Melancholy sold 8 million copies, double CD. That's 16 million copies. You got to go back out. So now they make this Adore record, which is a complete departure from anything else. His mom had died, so it was kind of a tribute to her. But the band was a little bit fried. Anyway, Billy walks in, just tall and, really friendly, says, Kenny, Billy Corgan, takes off his jacket, straps on his guitar. He says, listen, we already know how to play hard and loud and fast. I want to do something more like Pink Floyd, trippy, Grateful Dead-ish. And I'm like, okay. So he starts doing the textural type stuff, do cymbals. I start adding toms. I'm thinking, you got to get to a beat. So and I'm like, finally went, okay, we got to go. And then I start speeding it up, and it's like this. Billy. Darcy's looking that way, James is looking that way, and Billy's like right in front of me with his leg extended out, and it's rocking. We get done, and I said, and this is what I think, in hindsight, got me the gig. I went, is there anything else you want me to do to make it better? And he smiled, and he went, just do more of the same. Did that again, and that was it. And I think, I was thinking, I'll probably be on tour with Fogerty. They don't look like they're really into me. It was just their way of, they were just in their own world.
Well,
they're not the type of guy that looks at you like, man, it's great. Where'd you grow up? And all this. There's no talk. So
But Billy was cool. I mean, Billy was the leader of the band. He wrote the songs.
And Billy was really
controlling everything.
And I was just blown away. I was playing audition with the Pumpkins. I mean, just that alone would have been, fuck.
See, you get it. Even before working with them, though, there's people that love the Smashing Pumpkins. And obviously you know their fan base, too, which is just so die-hard. And then there's some people that just don't like the Pumpkins.
Dude, when I saw on MTV, the world is a vampire. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? It resonated with me. So
Bullet with butterfly wings.
Both about. So I'm in the LaGuardia airport, and I get a phone call from Sid. He says, Kenny, Billy would like you to do the Adore tour. I'm like, one of the greatest moments of my life. It was such a departure from anything I'd done.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were a manager and you were marketing somebody or something, you'd go like, dude, take Kenny from Johnny Cash and John Mellencamp and Bob Seger and put him in the Pumpkins. I mean, and it worked. And here's what happened. I think I heard Sid Bernstein and his partner, Mensch, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
from Q Prime, they went and saw me play. This is what someone told me. It could be all bullshit. They went and saw me play with Fogerty. And I think they were looking at it like, all right, this guy's obviously talented enough. Kenny plays with everybody. They need somebody really responsible that's going to hold the fort down. It's not going to be a problem.
It wasn't about the style even. It was about your persona.
Yeah.
That you're a professional.
Yeah.
And they needed somebody
needed
that's going to be there, study the shit.
And you know what Billy said to me
Yeah.
when we were rehearsing? Kenny, don't even try to play like Jimmy. Smartest thing he told me. Don't. And he's right. It would have been suicide. Just you be completely you. And Jimmy told me years later when we were doing a drum clinic thing together in London, he says, we're having dinner, and he and I are really good friends. He goes, dude, you're the only motherfucker that got it right. You just did your own thing. He says it was believable. And the fans, at first, fans are vicious. No, Jimmy, it's my fault, But they didn't. They were like, that's pretty cool what he's doing. That's different. So I wasn't even trying to be like Jimmy.
So did you have a limited capacity of what songs you could do? I mean, did you play like Tristessa or anything?
No, the thing is, what really pissed off the fans was that Billy only did 3 songs from those albums.
So it was all Adore.
It was all Adore, and people going, da 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 da. They wanted to hear. I kept saying, Billy, we're gonna do 0. Come on. And our last show,
you guys never played? Oh, just one time.
We did one time, and it was at Dodger Stadium, opening up for Kiss on Halloween, and it was.
I remember that it was nationally televised.
Yeah,
it was gigantic.
And I was the one that said, it's Halloween. We should dress up like the Beatles. And Bill went, okay, because we put wigs on, and we had a Beatles logo on my bass drum. The audience didn't get it. They go, ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles. You could have heard a pin drop. So then we go, money. And we finish, do the Beatle bow, take our wigs off, and Billy goes, and then I'm like, I'd been waiting for that the whole time we were on tour, because he only played Bullets to Butterflies Today in 1979.
Yeah,
it's the
not one cymbal
ones,
crash in 1979 either.
And they kept screaming the hits, Cherub Rock, and he wouldn't do it. He just
See, that's so funny, because just 2-3 years ago they finally did the reunion show, and Live Nation comes and they do big arenas all over. But I had went to so many shows. I've seen them probably over 100 times easy. And he would actually tour the record. He believes in, like, if I record a record, I'm going to play that whole record out there. I'm not going to do a greatest hits every show, and I want to create new music, and you're not going to encapsulate me in this shit.
That's Billy.
I'd love to see you play Ava Adore, though, the title track off Adore. That.
Well, we did play. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was the one we'd always do all through Europe, like on TV, like Jules and Holland, and we did Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
I don't know if
Perfect too. You guys played.
Did we do Perfect? Perfect, yeah. And we did Letterman doing it, and it was like, perfect, right? It was all these loopy things I was trying. Billy hired 2 percussionists, completely different. This guy had old shit. This guy was Dan Morris, had all this, technical stuff. And I remember going, oh my God. Well, we go off stage at one point, and I go, do you have his shit in your monitor? No. Do you have his stuff in your monitor? No. Can you hear me? Sort of. I said, no shit. It sounds like 2 lawnmowers going at 2 different tempos. Dude, we're a unit back here. And Billy didn't hear any of it because he had a stack of Marshalls in front of him.
Yeah.
But it was like complete, like, shit going on all over the place. And I'm like going, I'm just holding everything down. And songs, I'd start every song with the tempo off the record with a click so that we were like really
Sure.
doing.
Dialed
I mean,
in.
you got to check out, it's August 4th, 1998 at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. And they recorded it and filmed it. It's badass.
Is that on YouTube? And
It's on YouTube, and
All right,
it's
I gotta hear that.
badass, dude. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I have to say, man, the thing. Just watch how I'm studying Billy. I'm playing. It was a flawless show, really. I mean, I'm sitting there, and you playing the songs and the tempos, but there's a lot of room for jamming that he likes, and you don't. I have to guess what he's thinking.
yeah.
There's this thing called radio. We're just doing this thing. Radio. I'm trying to figure out this.
Radio.
Yeah, radio. And you're just vibing it. And that's what he likes. He wants creativity. And he told people in interviews, and he was right. He said, I'm going to have Kenny playing with so many dynamics in this band. And he's right. He had me play we'd start the show with, was it Sheila? Was that on that Adora?
To Sheila.
To Sheila.
Yeah.
It's like, Kenny, we start soft. God. First song, it wasn't powerful. And then it got bigger and bigger. I mean, Fucker was a genius. He is a genius.
What was it like, real quick, touring with them? Did you guys hang out a lot, or was it kind of like, you go to your room, let's meet at 5 o'clock, lobby call?
Well, first of all, we were in a different country every day. I mean, dude, one day we were in 3 countries. We played Dublin, and the U2 guys came. We played small venue, too. The U2 guys, a bunch of them, the U2, the main, not Adam, but the other 3 were there. And it was interesting talking Mullins, Larry Mullins Jr. He's a band guy. He could see all the dynamics.
Wow.
He told me shit that was going on. I went, how brilliant that you saw that. He could see all the band dynamics because he gets it. So then we got hammered tonight. We then fly on our jet to the Netherlands to the Pink Pop Festival, and I'm hanging out with Chamberlain. Matt Chamberlain. He was playing with.
Pearl Jam.
Who?
Pearl
Not
Jam?
Pearl. The Fiona Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
That was before.
And we were hanging, and it was like, Garbage was hanging out. I mean, the Pumpkins were huge. And then after we do that show, it's like 250,000 people there. After we do that show, we get back on the jet and fly to Paris.
Wow.
I mean, it was like, there wasn't much time to hang. The guy I hung out with most of the time was Mike Garson, the keyboard player who was on with Bowie forever. And he, just a beautiful cat, like a Buddha kind of guy.
Yeah, I asked Billy to come on here. He said he's going to consider it because he said he had such an amazing time making the record in this room. A lot of good times, he said. So, Billy, we're ready for you. The next album, Machina Chamberlain Returns, which is another amazing record. Had Billy let you know that this was only one tour that you were going to be filling in?
I had a feeling because what happened was the next day after I kind of told Billy, I want to record with the Pumpkins. That means a lot to me. And Billy's very sensitive. I mean, there's that side of him.
Yeah.
So the day after the gig with the Kiss, Halloween, he asked me to do 2 songs on a Tony Iommi solo record.
Wow.
Producing? It was just Iommi.
I know. But was Billy producing? Or
Yeah,
playing? Okay.
and playing. It was really difficult. It was a 13-hour session on one day, and there was no lyrics. I never heard the vocals until the album came out. It was different producers did different. I
love that.
I think only one song of ours got on the record, but you had all these different artists playing with Tony. And Billy walks in. I've already met Tony. Tony's the sweetest guy in the world. Billy comes in, takes his coat off, picks up. I thought he picked up a bass, but maybe it was a guitar. He says, "Tony, give me a lick." He has a photographic memory, by the way, Billy.
Yeah.
And so then he says, "Give me another one." He looks at me and goes, "We're in the control room." He goes, "You, dog, go to drums." So I go to drums. I'm there, and dude, it was just he was composing on the spot. And I'd be writing, okay, A theme, B theme, purple feel, green feel. I mean, I just was making up. Finally, Billy goes, no, Kenny, the chorus. I'm like, oh, fuck. I take my headphones off. I go in the control room. I go to the second engineer and says, here's $20. When they talk, because they were all in the control room recording. I was by myself. When they talk, here's $20. Hit the talk back button down so I can hear what the fuck they're saying. And I walked out. And
what
I was
studio
like,
is it?
Henson B. No.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't Henson B. Where was it?
Home studio, maybe?
No, it wasn't a home studio. It was one of the big.
I'll look it up on Discogs.
I wanted to say, because when I walked Henson B, you have to go this way to get into the room, because then you can go back to D that way.
Yeah.
No, you can go this way. It might have been Henson B.
Okay. It was Henson, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
But
you still speak with him, Billy?
I just sent a message to him, Mancow. Do you know Mancow? The
Muller,
DJ?
yeah.
So Mancow, I just did a thing, and I said, I'm going to be up in Chicago recording in January. I says, oh, really? Billy, Kenny's coming to town. Let's get together. Billy says yes.
Billy and him are good friends, yeah.
Really good friends.
Mancow was a gigantic rock personality, kind of like a Howard Stern on Q101.
Yeah.
In Chicagoland, still has a radio show.
Dude,
to this
that
day.
guy lost his virginity to Jack and Diana in a cornfield in Kansas. That's what he tells me.
His Chris Farley stories, too, are him and Chris Farley, because Chris Farley lived in the Hancock building in Chicago, but they would hang out nonstop.
Can you imagine those two together?
I got to touch down on a few more things.
Yeah.
I appreciate you so much. We're in the room that Van Halen did so much work. I mean, I'm obsessed with it. We can't sit in here and not talk about Alex Van Halen.
Oh, yeah.
Did Van Halen have a big effect on you on those records?
Fuck. Yeah. Because they were so authentic. Every single player in that band was the real deal. How many guitar players reinvented guitar? 3? Jimi Hendrix, Eddie, maybe Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jimmy Page maybe, but really,
No.
Eddie, I mean, this guy's a genius. I mean, we all know he was wild, he drank a lot and but dude, this guy was a mad scientist. He would spend hours and hours every day reinventing shit, moving pickups from an old guitar and rewiring this, and these guys were living it. And Alex, there's very few drummers. I'm one of the lucky ones. You can hear me on the radio, especially on a Mellencamp song. You go, oh, that's Kenny. He's got that sound. But Alex had that sound.
Big time.
Every fucking time. You hear it's like, and his style, he was very heavily influenced by Bonham, but he created his own thing. And then the brothers, and then, back when David Lee Roth, Mellencamp, somehow we did a big show in Toronto. I don't know how we could be done. Maybe it was SCTV or something. And then we go to a Van Halen concert. And this is back when
Mellencamp went to a Van Halen concert?
No, John, the band did. And this is when they just had Jump Out. So, David Lee Roth's got the blonde hair. He's running around with leather pants with his ass cheeks hanging out with a horse tail. And the audience looks like strippers and hookers. And we're a bunch of Indiana guys. I felt like I had like a straw hat on, overalls, and some mud boots, and a straw in my mouth compared to what we did and what they were doing. They were like rock gods. And could play.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. They could play. It wasn't like, I won't mention bands that it's more look than playing.
We were talking about that earlier when you walked in this room, they tracked all that stuff live because they could.
Because they could, man.
Yeah.
Dude, and so, and then I got to play with Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony and Chickenfoot. I've recorded and performed with them, and Michael Anthony, his vocals. I've never heard him not sing in tune. Or Sammy, and he could be drinking all night on stage, and his bass playing is impeccable.
Yeah.
Super talent. That was the least featured guy. But he was like huge in that band. All those vocals, upper background vocals, him.
Like the 98 Bulls, they were just perfect role players. And also the drum sounds. It wasn't just a Guitar World and Van Halen. You know, Alex had such distinctive drum sounds, especially, you know, on those early records, those fat, warm sounds, the identifiable snare, the attack on the snare.
The snare, yeah.
I mean,
and the toms, you know.
Yeah. Ludwig player, Rosewood snare, I think, which was my favorite
with a
record.
lot of tape on it.
Yes, exactly.
That was the thing. At first, I went, it was the opposite. Mine was wide open. Dang! His was like, but how do you name, the very few drummers have a sound where you go, oh, that's him. No, man, and their music, it was endless. It just kept coming out and coming out. Once, you're lucky. Twice, okay. 3 times, you're the shit. And it kept coming out like Zeppelin, just kept coming out. And then read Sammy Hagar's book, The Red Rocker, and the way he got in. And
well, he did that stuff here, too. You know, Sammy did.
He did it.
Well, that Big 55 song was done here. Plus, the Montrose stuff was done. Rock
here?
Candy was done in this room.
What?
Rock Candy was done here.
And I get to play all those songs when I do stuff with, when Jason Bonham can't do it, I do it. And...
that's so
Rock
cool.
Candy was done here.
Yeah. Ted Templeman produced Montrose.
Got. Oh my God.
Amazing. I could literally talk to you for so many hours about so many different things. I feel biased because we're both about Indiana, and I want, you know, I had to hear the Mellencamp and the Pumpkin stories, but you've done so much work. How many albums have you played on, do you think? 2,000?
It's probably more than that, but I had to come up with, when that autobiography came up, they said, we need stats, how many drumsticks have you broken? I was just, I don't know. I broke 18 one night with Mellencamp, but, so I came up with looking at through all my discography. The best I could do is 300 million records sold I'm on. Because I'm on 3 that sold 40 million. 2 Celine Dion's, and then Bat Out of Hell 2, Meatloaf. I'll do anything for love, and I won't do that. Bon Jovi, Ricky Martin with Livin' La Vida Loca on it. I didn't do Livin' La Vida Loca, but I'm on the album. I did 4 other songs.
She Bangs?
I did.
She Bangs, She Bangs.
Wait, was it Chicka Bang Bang, Chicka Bang Bang, Chicka Bang? Was it? Yeah, I did that one. What's the title? Sugar Bang Bang, Sugar Bang Bang, boom. Anyway, that sold like 18 million. It's just so, that much I know. It's you know, the weirdest thing when people go, Kenny Aronoff has played with, they don't know where to begin. They go, Mellencamp, I guess, Fogerty, they don't know where to begin.
Are you sick of talking about some of these stories?
Not at all. I love it.
Yeah, it's appealing. And also, this book is incredible.
The thing that's trippy about my career, okay, you're lucky if you make it in a band that has that isn't a one-hit wonder. Then, the other world is you're lucky if you make it a session player. So somehow, I did both at the highest level. But the thing that's really trippy is stylistically. The guy who, like I said, I'm recording with the Highwaymen, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings. At night, I'm doing Meatloaf. Then I fly on the weekend to do the Buddy Rich Big Band live concert.
Wait, the Highwaymen or the Highwaymen?
Highwaymen.
Oh, you retract with them?
I did. And they asked me to go on tour. It was another tour I turned down. The manager goes, let me get this right. So you're saying no to Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Chris Christopherson, and Waylon Jennings? I went, yep. I wasn't ready to leave Mellencamp. And they said, so to play with those guys, and Willie and then recently I had played a year and a half with Jerry Lee Lewis, and I did that purposely because Jerry's the last guy, and Willie are when they're gone, it's over. The real guys. I went to Jerry's birthday party during COVID, and Jerry he lives in Mississippi.
Gotcha.
You go to Memphis and drive a half hour, and he lives in Mississippi, and there's his cousin Jimmy Swaggart, the preacher, and Mickey Gillian. I'm in their house with like 25 people. You got President Clinton, you got Peyton Manning, you got Billy Gibbons, you got Keith Richards, you got all the country people all sending in messages, and then I got to play with, I did Amazing Grace with Jimmy Swaggart. He goes, son, It's so great to meet you. God has blessed you. And Jerry says you're the greatest rock. I mean, with that voice, I'm like, this is historic. This is oh, and that same guy played with the Pumpkins and started a band with Tony Iommi. Oh, and with Leonard Bernstein, who's conducting Sibelius' Fifth Symphony when you're 21 years old, one of the a great timpani part. I mean, it's just like, it's
mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling, and I can't say this is why that happened. Who the fuck knows?
You just got to tap into life, the momentum of it. Things come into play, I believe, in the cosmos, and when these things kind of appear in front of you, you know, you
recognize them.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not always obvious. That's the whole point.
I know.
Going back to Indiana was so unobvious. It's not always obvious, and that's so. It's a combination of a lot of things: intuition, the universe, hard work, self-discipline, awareness, your personality.
Yeah.
You know, Don,
that's such good to have. Even, you know, when I was in school, they said you got to be nice to everybody, which I've carried throughout my whole life, because you don't know who's going to be the next Steven Spielberg or the next John Mellencamp, and they're going to call you when they need a drummer or a DP or a guitar player.
Well, I mean,
the producers pick the instruments.
Don said it in that book. He said, I hire Kenny because he saves my sessions. He motivates people.
Yeah.
And a real true team player. See, it's not just good enough that I'm great on a record. To get the song on the radio to be number one, I need the bass player, the guitar player, everybody to do a good job together. So it's not just about me anymore, and I understand that. So it's about making people, and it's natural for me to do that. I'm not calculating it. I just do it. Yeah, anyway.
It's fascinating. I can't wait to get into this book. Let me go speed round for you. We got Glenn Sobel in the house, too, a great drummer coming on the next episode here. How did you, do you go back to Indiana often?
No, my son lives there. Last time I was there when I gave a speech at Buskirk, Chumley, right before the pandemic, and I haven't been there since.
You don't own a home there or anything?
No.
Okay.
But
we got to do something cool down there. We should bring some big bands or Orianthi, and you play drums on the next Carmen record I'm doing. Or
yeah. Music, but then we should do this too in front of people.
That would be cool.
At Buskirk.
Yes.
I can do a little motivation, we'll do some music, and then you interview and let people know what Indiana boys, when they left. This is some of the stuff that we've done in L.A.
Yeah.
And I think people will love it.
There's some
we
cool
could put
Indiana
together a
people
deck.
here,
I can help put a deck together that follows us.
Oh, yeah. We could 100% do that. I love that idea. That is genius. I got a couple questions from our Twitter. Is there anyone you've not played with that you would really like to?
Josh Homme.
Queens of Stone Age.
Yeah. Queens of Stone Age or any.
You're friends with him, but you haven't played with him?
We're friends, but no, I have not played with him, no.
Wow.
I mean, I just think he's brilliant. And Dave Grohl, I've played with Dave, you know, at Kennedy Center Honors. We played maybe 3 times together. But, yeah, Josh Homme, Dave Grohl, Jeff Beck in the band. And Dave has to play bass.
Jeff Beck, we just played the Loud Haler album, which Bones UK is a part of. That girl group, Kenny was blown away. He thought that was some cool stuff.
Unbelievable.
Check out The Revolution Will Be Televised off the Loud Haler Jeff Beck album, and that might make you shit your pants. Just 2 more questions. What's some advice you could give to that freshman student studying drums in Indiana that's down the street at Musicians Institute? 19 years old, freshman class at MI right now. What do you say to those kids?
Just you got
in 2021.
Yeah, practice as much as you can. Practice as much as you can. There's no shortcuts. It's always going to come down to practice. Be Tom Brady. Tom Brady is still coachable, still working out, still doing. He's won 7 Super Bowls. It's a lifestyle. It's no shortcuts. Just keep practicing, studying, learning. If it's truly what you are and what you want to do, then do it 24/7. Stay healthy, and 3 C's. Know how to connect with people, know how to communicate with people, because then you can collaborate with people.
Yes. Well, in closing, aren't you glad you didn't go home when John Mellencamp tried to fire you? Imagine where you could have been if you didn't go home at Cherokee Studios when they tried to can you.
I know. I think about it all the time.
That's incredible.
I would have been somewhere, but it wouldn't have been where I am now. It would have been a different journey. Because all those big hits hadn't come yet. They were yet to come.
You could have went home and said, "Ah, well, I tried it. That was cool for a little bit."
Well,
but
then fuck you, man.
that's
I'm
2
outta here.
weeks. Yeah.
Man, you just makes you wonder about the universe and stuff. You got to stay here because you guys have some serious shit to do together.
That's a message for everyone in life. Don't quit. Stick around, if anything, for curiosity. Mr. Kenny Aronoff, social medias are at Kenny Aronoff official.
Well,
Or official Aronoff?
Yeah, Twitter is official
Aronoff.
Aronoff. Instagram is Kenny Aronoff. LinkedIn is Kenny Aronoff, and Facebook is Kenny Aronoff. But if you guys, I ran out of adding names like 12 years ago, so I've got thousands of people, but I can't dump somebody and add somebody. So there's a fan page too, and then TikTok I still haven't done. I got to get on that.
It's insane how big that is. But
I know, it's amazing.
Also, Kenny gives lessons. I remember I contacted you a long time ago. Are you still doing the lessons?
Very little, but if you go on my website, there's a form you can fill out, and yeah, I have a
consulting though you do all kinds of cool
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I do consulting. I have a speaking business, but that an agent books me for that. I do have a studio called Uncommon Studios LA.
Oh yeah.
And people hire me. Like I'm right now writing charts for 25 songs for maybe 7 different artists that I'll record next week.
Yeah, Uncommon Studios LA. You've had that for like 15 years, right?
Yeah, I'm rebuilding my websites for everything, but yeah, Uncommon Studios LA, and people they send me their files and I record drums on them. They can't afford to be in these great places. There's nothing that replaces these places. Nothing.
Yeah. Do you think that's important in 2021 for a band to record in a recording studio
Yes.
to get the essence of Van Halen, where Eddie Van Halen stood
Absolutely.
right there, and Kenny Aronoff set his drums up on this record, and
Yeah.
this guy stood over here. I mean, look, it's permanently 1972.
Plus, these rooms sound better than any. My room I've made it work. I got a lot of Neve, API, BA stuff.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like these rooms. These rooms are expensive rooms. They're designed acoustically. They have a sound that the room is like the other member of the band.
Big time.
It literally is another member of the band.
I shot that documentary. I went all over the country going to different recording studios. I took a band with me
You did?
to demo. It's in post-production right now, but we went to Arlen, Electric Ladyland, Hyde Street in San Francisco, just everywhere. But this room right here we're in is the best sounding drum room. I mean, without a doubt, in all of the studios.
Yeah,
And the
I'd
drummer
say
I was with agreed.
yeah.
I mean, it was incredible to find that out. And it took going to all those studios. There's some studios in Texas. We were in there 4 hours getting drum sounds.
So that's what you found out by going all to these rooms.
Well, that wasn't the mission of the doc.
No, but that's what you found out.
100%. I mean,
This
really
is definitely one of the best. This room, and B is a brighter version, and Henson's the Crystal Room, just a little bit tighter, but it's not too big. Like A's too big for drums. I think you're always putting gobos around the drum. This room is like big but controllable big.
Big time.
You can work with it in the mix.
And the nostalgia, I think, brings out a lot, too. I mean, you got John Bonham that had a set right where I'm sitting. You had Alex Van Halen. You had, just Jimmy Chamberlain. I mean, everybody.
Yeah, everybody ends up here.
This room was built in '67. Charlie Watts, Kenny Aronoff. I mean, I appreciate you so much coming in. Again, this book is going to be a great read. I can't wait to hear all these stories. We could talk for 6 hours. You got to come back.
Yes, again. We should do an interview on what wasn't in the book. Because it was 600 pages. It's 325.
Let's call a sponsor, go down and get Dave Kubiak involved in Bloomington. I'd love to go down there with you and see. Miley Cyrus's guitar players and from Bloomington as well. And
what?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Kenny Aronoff, everyone. Thank you so much, sir.
Awesome, dude.
That's a roundtable.
Thanks for having me.